All right, now I got to do it one more time. All right, there we go. That worked. So, is everybody going to pretend like... I wish Mary would come to this morning. That'd be great. Mary, Carrie, Jerry. Just getting this out there. Let's just do this quick. Like, where's Argo? I haven't seen Argo in a few. You know, get arrested or some shit. Looks like Matt's at least awake. Matt's not awake at this point. I haven't sent Argo one of these since the previous Sunday morning mass. So interesting. So, does everybody remember? You remember? I don't know. 6 months ago, if that, where I was like, hey, let's look into Dan Bilzerian and see something about him just doesn't seem right. You guys remember that? I got on a little kick and I was looking everyone up and I wonder if I can find that because I did a whole thing on him. I actually know who the guy is. And I just think it's really strange, especially since like a week before the sort of announcement took place, I was like, hey, what happened to Dan Bilzerian? I haven't seen him in a minute. Like, it's all really, really interesting. So let me see if I can find this real quick. Williams, Dan Bilzerian. Let's see. I mean, Dan Bilzerian, it's going to be hard to find. There's so many videos being made about him right now. I would think if my name was Dan Bilzerian, Guy Williams, I would think that would work, but I guess not. Do it now. Let's see. That says I'm live. So let's go here. Let's go do live. Yeah, it's gonna be hard to find the actual video where I did it, but I'm looking, and I'm sure I did it. I know I did it. This is 2 months ago. So it was only 2 months ago we did the Tourette stuff. Yeah, see, I just think it's longer. Kobe, 2 months ago. The Kobe breakdown is a pretty crazy one. But this is back when I was struggling to get my hundreds. Discombobulated. Of course, we have a dumbass start us off. Can't have videos without dumbasses. I'm trying to find a video real quick. This is Breaking Grok. You realize the Breaking Grok thing only happened 3 months ago? That's fucking crazy. It all feels like it's so much more. Like it's been so much longer, but apparently not. 7K per month. Friars, Navid Akram. Communism. Look, we have a priest, the fake priest character, who doesn't realize it's Sunday morning and not, you know, trying to get with little boys. Did I title it Bilzerian? I might not have titled it that. Maybe that's why it's harder. This is Anne Frank, Ben Shapiro, good old BS, Ben Shapiro. Isn't that funny? I don't heard anybody say that. I don't watch enough people though, so I can't say this or that. Ian Frank again, proudly antiseptic. Where is Ian Carroll? It should be around these. I should title my videos better. You know, 4 months ago. Yeah, I guess not. I guess I'm not going to be able to find it. But it exists. You guys know where it is. Okay, the real Ian Carroll. Let's see. Maybe it's here. I know. I thought I spent like 2 days on Dan Bilzerian. Fake truthers. That might be it. One of these fake truther videos. Controlled opposition. Nick Fuentes. Yeah, it's right around here. So it must be something like that. Part Ian Carroll. Another fake truthers one. Yeah, this is what I was. This is when it was. I just don't know which one it is. But yeah, it's crazy how Dan Bilzerian is just another example of. It's like an updated example of the best of the worst. You know? He says stuff that I like, so I'm not actually, I'm gonna ignore all the other stuff he says, and that's just so difficult. Right? And I was watching Rathbone today. I like Rathbone's videos. He does a good job. He was highlighting the Bilzerian just had with what's his name? The guy that wears the hat. He always has a fucking fedora on, and he's got an act. I forget his name. A very prominent figure, a Dan Bilzerian. It's what they are, right? It's what they do, and it's man, and Jake Shields, yeah, with the like weird mullet. Yeah, he's running against Randy Fine right now, in Florida, and he's been on TMZ already. Like he's getting all sorts of press, and obviously the system wants us to go with him. And it was weird because like one of the first things he said was the guy says, so why are you doing this? And he says, well, actually it's a pretty selfless act. He blows himself real hard right off the bat. But he's a psychopath, right? He's a Christian psychopath. He's just as bad. Like he says the right things. He said he's a politician now, so apparently he knows how to be a politician. And he says the right things. I want equality. I want no one special, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, he's a huge bigot when it comes to trans people, when it comes to gays. He's a fucking insane Christian Zion, like not Zionist, but a Christianist, you know? He's fucking nuts. And and look, these are what Christians do. Like, look at my feed right now. You have a guy that's pretending to be a priest who can't engage in the conversation because Christians are just really, really dumb. And when you hear Christians speak, like, I don't understand how anybody hears a Christian talk and doesn't start laughing. You know, we were at a vigil a couple of weeks ago, and this kid was in the neighborhood riding around on one of those little fucking dirt bikes that all the kids ride around on. And he was stopped at a light, and somebody on their phone or whatever just didn't see him and fucking plowed into him, killed him. He wasn't wearing a helmet, which probably wouldn't have helped anyway. But Jesus came to you in a vision. Sure he did. There's more of that arrogance that's required. Jesus, who could show himself to everybody, to the world, and then, you know, fix things, and or show himself to Trump, you know, comes to the visions. You know how stupid you have to be? Do you understand how arrogant you have to be to think that way? You know, and the thing is, they're so stupid that as soon as you get them going, they start speaking in another language. Like, think about it. Jesus is king. What does that mean? That's not how words work. That's not how sentences work. You say that, like, restaurant is good. You know? Store is full. Like, you're stupid. And you prove it in your communication. And the whole psychotic Jesus will return. Like, do you understand how fucking psychotic someone has to be to not just think that way, but to want that to happen? You know? And it's so funny too that they fall for it as much as they do, because, you know, it's like they just don't know what their thing says. You know, as soon as Jesus's little toenail touches the ground, and I wonder, does that include his sandal? Does his foot actually have to touch the ground, or can his shoe touch the ground? But as soon as he floats down and his shit touches the ground, then the 16, 17 good Christians that exist will get raptured, while everyone else has, I forget, 40 years or whatever it is, 400 years or 1,000, I can't remember what it is, of Armageddon. Everyone else gets to die horribly, vicious, you know, plagues and starvation and all kinds of just awful, horrible death. And you have to remember that Christianity is only 8% of the world. There are a lot of people that have never even heard of Christianity. And yet, everyone has to die, because there's a few Christians who, like all these Christians that want it to happen. Literally, all they have to do is be a good person. You know, follow the rules and be a good person. Enjoy your life, and then when you die, you get to go to heaven. But because they want to go to heaven early, because their lives suck. They're like, man, Jesus needs to come. I hope Jesus comes. I hope Jesus comes. What a fucking moron. What fucking morons. Like, you guys are stupid and selfish and like gross. It's gross. You know how many children are going to die in your Armageddon who don't know your fairy tales, so they couldn't, you know, ask Jesus to be their savior, you know, accept Jesus as their Lord and Savior. They don't even know to do it. They're just all gonna die. And Dan Bilzerian is one of those people. He believes in this craziness. Like, seriously, tell me something I can look up. Tell me something where a Christian is going to sound intelligent. One time, I was scrolling through the YouTubes, and top 10 archaeological finds that prove Christianity is real or something like that. And I was like, all right, let's give it a shot. Let's see what it says. And I go into these with all the risk. All you have to do is present something that I, in my stupid, human, boring, stupid human mind, can't just be like, well, what about this? Or debunk it. Like, let's see what you have. And it was, you know, there was, here we go. This is something like a coffee cup. And on that coffee cup is an inscription that could be loosely translated into meaning Jesus. And this coffee cup is dated before people were talking about that shit. What? And of course, you have the Shroud of Turin, which is as stupid as, like, do you know what you believe in when you believe in the Shroud of Turin? You believe that Jesus died and his body leaked all the fluids and stuff that come out of a human when they die in an exact image of himself on this cloth, this Shroud of Turin. Like, do you understand? Like, even his beard. Do you understand how utterly ridiculous that is? Ooh. It's just so goddamn stupid. Do you believe that the God of the Old Testament is the same entity as the God? Oh, look. Below your comment, we have someone flying the pedo flag, the blue and white pedo flag. A coward, a piece of shit monster who likes raping children. Like, they're rotten individuals. Rotten. But as far as the God of the New and the Old Testament, you understand it's the same shit, right? It's the same shit. It all comes from the same shit source. How do you even decipher that? How do you even decide which part is the one that you like and which one's the one you don't? Essentially, if you're saying you're a New Testament person, you're saying God got it wrong the first time. I guess the Dos Equis guy likes dudes looking certain ways, right? You're such a fake person that you fake being somebody else, and then you let your closet stuff come out when you're watching shit. Because I'm sure you deny being gay, but obviously you are. Hey, as long as I'm not sucking on kids, you fucking weirdo. God damn, you walk into that shit. You want to bring metzitzia into it? We can bring metzitzia into it. Funny though, you won't say anything about this part. Isn't that weird how when it comes to the actual stuff that you guys do, you won't say anything? Yet you got so much to say here, you can make up, whatever weird ass fantasies you like. But when it comes to actually answering for your shit, for your disgusting shit, you got nothing, do you? Yeah, got nothing. Like this is exactly how this works. This is what it is. This is crazy. And because they're gonna, Dan Bilzerian for the last 6 months or so has been being prepped on how to handle it. Dan Bilzerian's dad is a part. Like, the reason Dan Bilzerian is famous is because he's rich. His family was rich. It's easy to have an amazing TikTok page or Instagram page when you can afford to fly all over the world and take the best pictures, and you live in a house that everybody wishes they lived in, and you can do all the stuff that we all wish we could do. Oh, look. These pedos are stroking each other. They can't actually talk about any of it, but they can stroke each other. What do you want? Go away. Right. The idea of Jesus' return. Like, the funniest thing is, none of these people are good. None of these people. All of these people aren't in church right now, I can tell you that. Come on. Instead of being at church, they're here right now, but they think they're going to heaven still, huh? Guess that worked out well, huh? Like, do you understand falsely representing yourself as a priest? I would imagine that might disqualify you. 24/7 streamer tweaking off hallucinogenic drugs that never leaves. So you saw my feed before 20 minutes ago? 21 minutes ago? When was I live last? Other than about 24 hours ago? Weird how all you do is lie. Because you can't answer for, like, imagine if you were like, hey, I think this restaurant is the best. Or somebody said, I think this restaurant is the best. And you're like, really? Tell me about it. Why is your restaurant the best? And they were like, well, that restaurant over there is dirty. Okay. Why is that restaurant the best? Well, those restaurants over there, they don't cook food very well. I don't like them. They're not very nice to me. They don't agree that my restaurant is the best restaurant. Well, yeah, they're another restaurant, so of course they're not going to believe. Yeah, but they shouldn't. They should believe mine is the best because I say so. Wow, that's really confident. Why is your restaurant so good? Because I don't have to. Why should I have to tell you? Just my restaurant is the best. Look, that restaurant over there is really far. Don't drive there. You're going, what the fuck? Why don't you just tell me about your restaurant, dude? And they just can't. They just can't. Right? This is the kind of stupid shit where, it's just constant. It's just constant. Is Dan one of those guys that goes after friars but calls them Zionists? Actually, Dan said it today, but he said, I'm against friar supremacism. I don't necessarily blame Zionists, but I don't blame all friars. And it's weird how it's just like how can I be the only one that's bothered to look up what Semitism means? Right? Just that's such a really basic sort of point. Is Dan specifically said it, because they were talking about his TMZ appearance, and he was like, I reject the label of anti-Semitism. And it's like, why, dude? Don't you know what it means? It's everything you're talking about. He said, I would say I'm anti-friar, but it's not all friar, blah, blah. Like, he bounces around. And he doesn't say the right things. Of course you're anti-Semitism. That's anti-supremacy. Semitism, for all those that don't understand, is policy or predisposition favorable to friars. Okay? This is always the one where it's like I really feel the need to have to prove it because I know how cowardly my opposition is, and they'll use whatever they can. So Semitism, definition, Merriam-Webster. We all agree Webster's dictionary is the dictionary. Okay, Webster's dictionary. Come on, say the thing.
Semitism.
We're on the Semitism page. That's how you say it. Semitism.
Semitism.
Websters.com. Number 1A, Semitic character qualities. Number 1B, a characteristic feature of a Semitic language occurring in another language. Number 2 is policy or predisposition favorable to friars. Policy or predisposition favorable to friars. APAC Policy
Semitism.
Conference.
Semitism.
APAC Policy Conference, when they decide the policy of the world, right? Of the United States. The Israeli operation decides U.S. policy. Policy, meaning rules and regulations. And predisposition is even worse. Predisposition is like genetic programming. If your mother's family all has cancer, then Even if you live a great life, you have a raw diet, you live clean, you don't smoke, you don't drink, whatever, you still have a predisposition for cancer because all of your mom's family has cancer. It's essentially genetic programming. And so when their demand for the rules and regulations and our genetic programming to be favorable to them, that is supremacy. That's just a nice kind of way of saying it. Policy and predisposition, but it's supremacy. We demand supremacy. If you go into any situation and you know that it's us, the rules and regulations need to bend in a favorable way to us, and your perception, before you know any of the facts, if you just know that it's friars, you got to be favorable. That's fucked up, right? That's fucked up. That's how it works. And the fact is, most of you don't understand, but if you look at the comment section, it doesn't really make sense. Do you really think all these people just stumbled across my feed? No. All these fake profiles, been either been here for 12 years with one subscriber, or they're less than 6 months old, but all of them are fake. They all just kind of show up. Isn't that weird? It's not, though, because there's something called act.il that everybody needs to understand. Act.il is a social networking service used by supporters of Israel to oppose online, quote, anti-Israel content such as the BDS movement, boycott, divestments, and sanctions. Its activities were referred to as, quote, an online propaganda campaign and, quote, a virtual situation room of pro-Israel experts. Now pay attention to the wording they use here because it's really important. Act.il directed its users to, quote, missions to like, comment on, and share pro-Israel material online or on social media. It also asked users to flag, report, and respond to criticisms of Israel. Users were guided how to respond, which might entail writing a reply using the provided talking points. It's why they all say the same dumb shit. That's why they don't actually answer any of the questions I ask or even talk about, address the things that I'm saying. They all seemingly come from the same source because they are the same source. Did you guys just let it happen again? You need to watch her. So you never see them, like, they'll say schizophrenic and they'll say take your meds is their favorite one. They actually made a South Park episode about it. If you watch South Park and you saw the Cupid Yee episode where Cartman hallucinates, or Cartman is visited by a little Cupid, but it looks just like a naked Cartman because South Park loves drawing kid penises. But Cupid Yee, he calls him Cupid Me. That's Cupid Me. Cupid Me flies around shooting arrows, and he's Cupid. But when he doesn't take his medication, he gets a little wonky, and he starts telling everyone that Kyle controls Hollywood. Right? He's telling everyone that Kyle controls Hollywood. And it becomes this big deal, and it's interesting because the acting like they don't, when they literally made the movie Hollywoodism in 1998, which is about how they control Hollywood, not how they actually invented Hollywood, but how they somehow invented it and then controlled it, ran it with an iron fist, and still do to this day. Like, it's no secret that they control Hollywood. And yet, if you say it, you need to be medicated. And throughout the entire episode, they're saying, take your meds, Cupid Yee. Cupid Yee, Kanye. He's got a little hat on and shit. And finally, at the end of the episode, Cartman catches him, holds him down, and forces a little blue pill in his mouth. And the last thing he says is, no, these things control my mind, man. And suddenly his Kanye attire disappears, and he flies up and tee hee, and he flies around shooting arrows, and he's none the wiser again, and because he took his meds. Take your meds is their number one thing, right? Why do you think they're going? This guy's freaking out. Everybody, hit dislike on this video. Stop watching this guy. Why would anybody ever do that? It's Sunday morning. This guy's here every day. He watches me religiously. And yet, what I'm saying is so bad that he doesn't want the rest of the Goyim to hear it. Goyim, stop listening to this guy. He's going to influence your brain and having you thinking about shit you're not supposed to think about. Definitely don't like, share, and sub, right? Dislike this video. Dislike it. Take your meds. Take your meds. Take your meds is one of the things they're programmed to say. They're not programmed on how to like make themselves to promote their restaurant, right? They're sitting here going, no, your restaurant's not very good. That restaurant's not good. If you don't like our restaurant, you need medication. But they can't tell you a single thing as to why their restaurant's any good. You see it over and over again. And because they're so inbred and stupid, I guess they just don't realize what they're doing, even if you point it out to them. So that kind of works to our advantage. The app also provided users with ready-made memes promoting Israel's perspective for them to share. Now, this is the most important part. By completing missions, users earned points, unlocked badges, and had their scores displayed on leaderboards. What do you think badges is? What do you think that means? Badges are prizes. So it's actual prizes, but the most coveted thing are the stripes, the badges that go on your shirt that mean you rise up in rank and you can be chosen for the next level. Most of the people involved don't get to that. But that's what the thing is. And again, why is everybody freaking out? Because I'm telling you guys the truth about something. It's not like I'm making anything up. It's right here. Anybody can find it. Right? I need to be stopped because I'm the devil. I love when they say shit like that. Basically, what this guy's saying is, I'm so good at what I'm doing that it must be some sort of supernatural thing. It couldn't possibly just be somebody is this smart. I must have the devil, the rival of God, is working through me. That's what this dumbass is saying because he can't fucking come up with anything. Right? Why don't any of these guys just tell us why their shit's real? Like this dumbass is going to come on here and going to start speaking in another language. Think about this. Let's exalt the name of Jesus and give God praise. Jesus is alive and is coming very soon. What the fuck? Who even speaks like that in regular life? You know? Hey, Ben, what you want for breakfast? Breakfast is the food that is the most important meal of the day, and I will eat the breakfast as long as the breakfast is so divine that it tastes of goodness. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, weirdo? But this is how they operate. They can't actually have an intelligent, reasonable conversation because they aren't intelligent or reasonable. It's just that simple, man. You know, I can present my argument and then I can present you with evidence to back up what I'm saying. These guys act like, you know, if you don't just believe the dumb shit they just believe, something must be wrong with you. They don't have any real reason as to why they believe it. They can't tell you why they're the specific denomination that they are and why every other one is wrong. They can't do that. Stop it, Broly. They can't do that shit. It's just dumb shit. Right? And again, who's like, seriously, am I stopping anybody from saying something intelligent? Am I stopping anybody from, you know, this dude's using cap locks because he's yelling. The ignorance that you speak comes from the dope that you smoke. Yep. Ignorance is thinking we should kill pedophiles and overthrow the friar control scheme. Again, if I'm so ignorant, I'm so compromised, I'm all of these bad things, how come you can't do a better job? How come you can't just, oh, look, the fucking rabbi who thinks raping children is an act of God literally said those words. when asked, what about the Talmud and how the Talmud says if a Goyim rapes a child, he should be killed. But if a friar rapes a child, if the child is less than 3 years and 1 day, it's considered a poke in the eye. It didn't happen. Literally, a poke in the eye is what it says. It's akin to a poke in the eye. Nothing happened. It all grows back and shit. Now, it's probably because so many of them have micro penises that they can get away with sort of thinking like that. Well, it's not going to hurt because there's nothing there. Right? But if the child is over 3 years and 1 day, and between 3 years and 1 day and 12 years and 1 day, then the violator is responsible for paying the family of the victim the full dowry, which is 50 shekels or 100 dinars, depending on how you look at it. And once that happens, the victim now belongs to the violator as somewhere in between a slave and a wife. It's unbelievable. Now, if the victim happens to be betrothed, stop it, bro. If the victim happens to be betrothed, which is what happens when they turn 12, they get betrothed to a grown-ass man who's, ask Rabbi Shmuley. Rabbi Shmuley's parents are 10 years apart, at least. What generally happens is it's somewhere around 10, 15 years. But the female is 12 when she is betrothed to the much older 20-something-year-old. And by 13, once she becomes an adult at 13, we all know that's what they do, right? They have their little party and the person officially becomes an adult. And once that happens, now they start making babies. Rabbi Shmuley's mom was probably 13 or 14 when she had her first kid. And her father would have been 23 or 24. This is extremely common practice in their community. And you ask him about that. I asked the rabbi about that. And his response was, it's not rape. It's an act of God. It's just so insane. And then over the last couple days, there's an article that everybody needs to read called Bottom of Darkness. And it was put out by the Israel Hayom newspaper. Israel Hayom being Sheldon Adelson's baby. Like, this was his pride and joy. He's dead now. But Miriam Adelson, Sheldon Adelson, you wonder who the Adelsons are. Let me just give you a preview of how important these pieces of shit are.
That they kept promising. I never understood it until I got there. There was a lot of pressure put on these presidents. It was put on me too, but I didn't yield to the pressure. But every president for decades said, we're going to do it. The difference is I kept my promise and officially recognized the capital of Israel and moved the American embassy to Jerusalem.
Trump is so weird.
Isn't that right, Miriam? Look at Miriam. She's back there. Stand up, Miriam.
Okay, so it's so important that you notice he says stand up and she doesn't stand up. She doesn't do what the Goyim tells her to do.
Sheldon would come into the office. They'd call me. He'd call me. I think they had more trips to the White House than anybody else. Look at her sitting there so innocently. She's got $60 billion in the bank. $60 billion. And I think she's saying no more. And she loves Israel, but she loves it, and they would come in, and her husband was a very aggressive man, but I loved him.
Because he was nice to
very
me.
aggressive, very supportive of me. And
$100 million.
can I come over and see you? I say, Sheldon, I'm the president of the United States. It doesn't work that way. He'd come in with the, but
Sheldon bought his way in. He gave Trump $100 million for his campaign. I'm going to come see you. That's not the way that works. I'm the president. Yeah, right. I'm the president. I bought you. You're president because I bought you. That's how this works.
we're very responsible
Trump
for so
kissed the
much,
wall.
including getting me thinking about Golan Heights, which is probably one of the greatest things to ever happen.
Which is probably one of the greatest things to ever happen. So, all of you dumb Christians out there, Trump pretends to be a Christian. He compared or he says that him somehow taking the Golan Heights and giving it to Israel by recognizing it as Israel's property, which this was Syria's land, that is one of the greatest things to ever happen. He's a believer in Jesus and all that, and he says this. Look at this dumbass. You should not be smoking dope on public forum YouTube. There could be children watching, and if you are a bad influence to support drug behavior, two children. Children. Yep. Yeah. Nonsense. That's why this is made not for kids. But I think everybody should see this. Come on. I'm sure every time you see somebody take a drink on TV or whatever, you're like, oh my God, I'm calling this station right now. You're so stupid. You don't even know what I'm doing. It's just tobacco. It's just tobacco anyway. Who do you despise more? Trump? Why do you guys play these? Are you like 15? There is no despising more or anything. Like, you get Netanyahu and especially Ben-Gvir and Trump at the top of those lists, but you know, it's all the same bullshit. They're all just, Trump is just an actor. Trump has no power. Trump does what Miriam Adelson tells him to do. Watch. Netanyahu.
Stand up, please.
He said the right word. See, that time she stood up. Why? Because he said, please. He asked her to stand up. The first time he said, stand up, Miriam. He told her to stand, and she doesn't do what he tells her. When he said, please, stand up, please, she did it. Because that's how this works. Watch this.
He loves this country. Her and her husband are so incredible. We miss him so dearly. But I actually asked her, I'm going to get her in trouble with this, but I actually asked her once, I said, so Miriam,
who talks like
I know
this?
you love Israel. What do you love more, the United States or Israel? She refused to answer. That might mean Israel.
Look at the guy here. Look at him. He's so mad right now.
Thank you, darling, for being here. That's a great
What the
honor.
fuck is he doing?
Great honor. She's a wonderful woman. She is a great woman.
Yeah. Like, you just so fucking dumb if you fall for that shit. You know? And these are the things that Dan Bilzerian isn't talking about. You know? Dan Bilzerian, the Palestine situation is an atrocious, awful one. No doubt about it. But even like if you're saying Zionism, blah, 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 that's what you're supposed to say. You're supposed to say it's Zionism. Calling me dumb as a Christian is calling, period, Jesus dumb. Jesus is stupid as shit. If Jesus was real, which it's not, the whole concept, he's a goofy gay guy walking around whining about how everybody needs to listen to him because his dad said so. It's all just so stupid. Anybody that believes in that shit, man, you really have to question yourself, right? You really have to ask yourself. Because again, I'll ask any of you, why do you believe in the religion, in the denomination, in the sect that you believe in? Whatever sect of Islam you believe in, whatever sect of Christianity you believe in, whether you're Seventh-day Adventist or any of it. What reason do you have to believe it? What proof have you seen that this particular thing is correct and all of the thousands of other ones aren't. You can debunk them all. And it's funny when you just ask people like say your piece. You know, convince somebody, make a reasonable argument. Don't sound like a dumbass child. They fall apart. Disprove Christianity. How do you disprove something that isn't real? What? Dude, stay out here. Prove there's no leprechaun dancing around in my hand right now. Yeah, he's doing the heiddle-dee jig. You see him? Diddly-diddly-diddly. You see him? I have faith he's there. You don't have faith? It's not up to me to prove it. I can't prove something doesn't exist. You have to prove it does. And this is the kind of dumb shit that Christians always say because they can't say anything else. Right? They can't. What are you going to say? You would think with all of the concessions and all the belief and all the money that flows into the church tax-free, disappeared only to show up when they have to pay off yet another family for abusing their child. That shit drives me fucking crazy. So much so I forgot what I was fucking saying because I went in that direction. It's so fucked up. It's just so fucked up. You believe in all this shit. Huh? You only believe in this shit for selfish reasons. It's not like it makes things better. You can't because of it. As a matter of fact, everyone knows, at least according to the narrative we're given, that all of the major wars and all that shit was always over religious shit. Religion is and it's all Abrahamic bullshit. You just don't want to talk about it. Right? You just don't want to talk. And the fucked up part is all of them are pedophile based. It's all about pedophilia and normalizing it and all that. And it's fucking crazy. Yeah. And Dan Bilzerian, I saw Dan Bilzerian on the Hodge twins. And they were asking him, like, so you're a Christian and you believe in Jesus, right? But wasn't Jesus a Jew? And Dan said, well, I prefer to think he was Palestinian. It's like, so you're just going to change religious dogma doctrine to fit your narrative? Because the ones that wrote it, the friars, of course they're going to make the ultimate superhero their guy. Samson was the strongest man in the world. He could pull down fucking buildings. You know? Like it's they love to do that shit. But to say that, you know, it doesn't fit your narrative, so you're changing shit up. I mean, that man is psychotic. He's a fucking psychopath. Like, they're just fucking insane. Islam, remember. What? Dude, it's beautiful outside. You know, it's all just fucking pedophile craziness. Anybody that supports Islam, you're insane. You're fucking insane. I just learned this, right? I just learned, like, how truly bad Islam is. Right? Okay, here we go. Oh, I love this arrogant shit. Here we go. Ken's gonna be super arrogant. Ready? I used to be a long hair, dope, smoke, and hippie like you until Jesus saved my soul, and now I worship God and give praise to Jesus Christ for dying for me. You can't even speak properly. But this is that arrogance, right? Jesus come to you? Jesus saved yours. How did Jesus save your soul? Especially if you weren't a believer, if you weren't asking for it. I thought you had to ask for it. I thought Jesus left you hanging until you asked for it. So if you weren't a believer, How did Jesus even know to save your soul, you arrogant shit? And of course, you know what Jesus never does? What's never happened in the history of Goddom? Cop driving down the road, when all of a sudden Jesus appears sitting next to him and says, "Stop thy car thee. Verily go kick in that door." And cop's like, "Okay, you're Jesus. Fucking hey, fuck a warrant." Goes and kicks in the door and busts a pedophile ring and saves 20 kids. Never has it happened. Nah, Jesus only fucking appears to drunks and drug addicts. And then Jesus is there while they're partying the whole time. But then at some point, Jesus is like, "Okay, enough partying," and answers the prayer the one time. Because everybody that claims this bullshit, they forget about the fact that there's been numerous times where they've prayed to Jesus for help in quitting whatever it is, and Jesus didn't answer. They love leaving that shit out. Right? Do I seem bitter? Maybe it's because I hate pedophilia, you think? And slavery. I'm not a fan of pedophilia or slavery. So if I sound bitter, that's why, you fucking weirdo. Your phone charger isn't working, probably a sign of Jesus telling me to... That's the kind of shit that Christians do, though. Right? Christians don't, like, it's not a sign that there's no Jesus every time they pray for something and it doesn't come true. But then something stupid, and I know you're kidding, but something stupid will happen like that, and they'll be like, "Oh, see? I trip over the phone cord," and they're like, "See, God slapped the phone out of your hands right there." Yet God is never there while the clergy are raping children, raping little boys, which is happening all the time. How come God never stops that? How come we've never heard about a religious figure saying he was sitting there in study when God appeared to him and told him to go save this child? So he went running through the streets, went to a house, he kicked in the door, and there was 15 kids in there being violated. How come that's never happened? Just like you'll never see any friars out there campaigning for an end to metzitzia, campaigning for an end to the bottom of darkness, to soul correction, to Talmudic nonsense. Just like you never see any Muslims being like, "Yeah, it's really, really fucked up that our prophet, his favorite of his many wives was Elisha." I think it's Elisha. I don't know. That's how I think you say. I guess I didn't look hard enough, but it seemed to remember it being Alisha. So if that's what it is, maybe I'm saying it wrong. But that was his favorite wife. He was in his 50s, and she was 6 when they began grooming her to be his wife. And they consummated the marriage when she was 9. That's the religion that you believe in. Like, are you out of your fucking mind? All 3 are the Abrahamic religions, right? Abraham being the main bad guy in the Bible, the main big bad. Like, he is the father of the bad guy. See, Satan doesn't really appear in the Bible very often. Satan shows up periodically. The real bad guys are the friars, right? Are the children of Abraham. They are who kill your Jesus, your Christian God's only son. They are a completely different religion, and they hate you. And for some reason, you believe that they are your God's, your Christian God's chosen people. Christians believe that Abraham is the father of all religious people. Muslims believe that he's a high-ranking prophet in the scheme of things. And friars believe that he's the father of the friar people. He's the main guy. But he's a big bad in all 3 Abrahamic narratives. And they always talk about the father of the people, the father of the people. Who's the mother of the people? That would be Sarai or Sarah. when God has his, God appears to Abraham, and well, Abraham's on the God phone that only they can make, and usually God's like, all the land from here to here is yours. Just go tell everybody and I guess, he goes into the city and he's like, yeah, I just built one of the God phones that only we can make. And God said, it's all mine. I'm going to live in the big house. You guys all owe me taxes. And they're like, cool. But they had one of their conversations, and his name was Abram at the time, and his wife's name was Sarai at the time, and they were in their 90s. And God said, you are going to have a child, and he's going to be called Ishmael. Your name is now Abraham, and her name is now Sarah. And Abraham was like, what are you talking about? We're in our 90s. And God was like, don't worry, it's going to come true. But Sarah was his sister. His fucking sister. His sister. Right? That's the shit. Right? How come they never fucking say anything like this? How come they never debunk what I'm saying? How come they never address any of this? Because there's nothing to address. I'm not wrong. It's wrong. That's why they can't address it. And anybody that would just willingly believe that shit without any sort of question, without any sort of disgust, what's wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you? You guys are just gross. And those are things as sin, soul, salvation, heaven, hell, or afterlife. Right. It's all dumb nonsense. Do we know everything that we're capable of? We don't. I think they might. I think that the controllers, I think the hiders, the hiders of the history know all kinds of shit that we don't know. But, is the narrative we're given the truth? Like, do you honestly think they put the solution to them, the thing that would stop them, stop it? The ultimate solution is on every other corner in a tax-free, building, that tax-free organization that brings in money and controls people. You think they would allow that to be? They would push that on people? That at any given time you can turn on the TV and find a 24-hour Christian network. You think that's really that's the solution? Is that and the solution is being given by the people who are the problem? You really think that way? And see, again, it's like they just start, they start talking in a different language. Jesus is my Lord and Savior. Like, what are you talking about? He's your Lord and Savior? He's your Lord. He governs your life, and he saved you from what? From the sins. Saved me from the sins thousands of years ago. So I always think of it as like, it just adds more to the manufactured realm earth thing. God is just some guy, stop it, who bought an earth fish tank in whatever more advanced year it is in his world. And he Todd God is his name. And it's like a Sim City, but it's sort of real. And if you look at the Bible, the first thing is God. The face of God is going over the waters of the deep. He's looking at the fish tank, trying to decide where he's going to put his dome. Because after he turns on the light, click, he doesn't make the sun and the moon until the fourth day. So I don't know how you have 4 days to begin with, but doesn't make the sun and the moon until the fourth day. And then after he turns on the light on the first day, it creates the indestructible firmament, the dome. All of you, I believe in stars and shit. Oh, you better not be a Christian, because that's not what it says. I mean, it's all just so stupid, right? It's so fucking stupid. And so at some point, the Earth Company showed up at Todd God's house, and they're like, Mr. God, that is what you go by, right? Yes. Our sin tracker has shown that your Earth is way too sinful. So somebody's gonna have to die for all these sins. We're just gonna repossess your Earth. And he's like, no, wait. What if I impregnate a 12 or 13-year-old Jewish girl? She gives birth to the Savior. Well, I'll give him a couple of extra powers. And then at 12, he'll disappear. And then at 32, he'll reappear. And he'll lead the brigade. And then they'll kill him. And he dies on the cross for everyone's sin. Will that count? Can we say that counts not just for now, but forever as well, for all of the sins that my Earth might produce? And they're like, ew, I don't know. We're going to have to call the boss on this one. So they whip out their phones. And if you've ever been an in-home salesman, you've had this phone call before where you got to call the regional manager, your manager, whatever, and pretend to have the phone call, you know? And so he's eating or whatever, and he doesn't even want to talk to you, and he's like, oh, what is it, Jeff? Like, well, hey there, Mr. Sanders. I am here with Todd God, and he has a really beautiful house. You should see, he has a collection of old, and he's like, just get on with the fucking show. I'm eating here. It's like, well, you would really like it, I guarantee it. But anyway, you know how Mr. God here is, his Earth has been awful sinny lately? Yeah, he was wondering if he could impregnate a 12 or 13-year-old virgin Jewish girl and then kill the baby. Eventually, after 30 some years, she's going to kill the baby. And he's like, Jeff, this better not be fucking wood. This better not be another fucking situation where this shit falls through. Timber Jeff, that's why we call you Timber Jeff. I know. No, it is great. It's a great house, really. Jeff, if he doesn't have that kid die in 32 years, it's your ass. No, he says he's definitely going to kill his kid in 32 years. So you will kill the kid in 32 years, right, Todd? Oh, absolutely. If you just let me have this, I'll make it's only one. What do I care? I jerk off all day. I'll jerk off again. Don't worry about it. And so, all right. This one fucking time, Jeff. If this doesn't come through, it's your ass. Goodbye. Click. All right. Well, thank you. No, thank you, Mr. Sanders. Yeah, I'll definitely have a great night as well. You kiss the wife for me, okay? All right. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. He never does this, right? He never does this. But he said, as long as you guarantee that you're going to kill your kid in 32 years, 33 years, then we'll allow you to keep your Earth set up. It's like, all right, bet. Do it now. Who did God? Who did Jesus have to die for? Like, I never understood that part. It's symbolic. Oh, you get to decide that? So, which parts of the Bible are symbolic and which parts are to be taken literally? Do you get to pick that too? Why would you make a book, a guide to life, to everything, and make it confusing? Leave it up to interpretation so awful people who enjoy violating can take advantage of it and violate with it. Why would you ever do that? How come Jesus didn't say, oh yeah, by the way, you live on a ball flying around the sun. The sun doesn't go around the earth. It's all going around the sun, and you're just one little rock in a sea of it's infinite. Your God is so powerful. He controls so much. You have no idea. How come he didn't say that shit? Huh? It's symbolic. It's symbolic. Which part's not symbolic? What part's the real part? What part's the symbolism part? Like these Christians are just so dumb. Of all the Bible is symbolic with history, just like learning a history book in school. You see how stupid this person is? I guess they don't understand what symbolic means. Roman Empire is not the symbol. What are you talking about, man? The level of stupid that comes through when it's Christians is just it's like surprising. You never really get used to it, but it's understandable at the same time, right? They have to be this dumb. You can't believe in Christianity and not be this dumb. You have to be this fucking dumb to accept such a terrible narrative presented in such a horrible way that it's not like it's even a good read, right? It's a pretty awful book. It's a pretty awful story. It's hard to read most of the time. It's contradictory. It's just a bad story. It's not even well written. That's the point. Like it's bad in so many ways. And yet, and that's, I think most people know it. That's why most people don't know their Bible, right? I think most people, once they start getting to a point where it starts, contradicting common sense and they start really questioning things, which is going to be very early, they go, you know what? I'm just going to have the faith. I'm just going to go with the faith route. And I'm going to say I read it. I was forced to read it when I was a kid, so that's good enough, and yada, yada, yada. And as a kid, you didn't read either. You just skipped through it, hoping that you happen to read the parts that somebody's going to ask you about. But to tell a child to read the Bible and get some sort of understanding out of it is a joke. It's a fucking joke. It's such a poorly written excuse for some sort of guide to life kind of bullshit. Most Christians haven't actually read or studied the Bible. Nope. It's because they can't. Like I say, if you actually start looking into it, too much common sense is going to get triggered. The best is like all you Christians that claim that homosexuality is a sin because of Sodom and Gomorrah. Like, you clearly have not read Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah is easily like how Exodus is the dumbest story. Sodom and Gomorrah is among the worst, right? It's just awful. So Sodom and Gomorrah, let's see if you guys can pick out the gay part. Sodom and Gomorrah starts with there are two angels disguised as men. They're on a journey somewhere far, and instead of just flying there, they decide that they're going to walk. Bartleby and whatever style from Dogma. Dude, stop it. You guys are both coming in. Come on. Come on. Now you're going to walk away. See, dumbass? OCD dog. Come on. So they walk in. They're walking and they walk by Sodom and Gomorrah. I guess it's like a big walled-in city or something. I don't know. But a guy named Lot is sitting there. A guy named Lot is sitting there on the edge, like on the city, like on the gate or something. I don't know, maybe whittling. I don't fucking know what he's doing. But he sees these two guys and he's like, hey, and again, he doesn't know they're angels. He's just like, hey, two guys walking by. Why don't you come spend the night at my house? It's getting late. And they're like, no. You fucking weirdo, what are you talking? No. And he's like, come on, I'll make you unleavened bread. And they're like, oh shit, unleavened bread.
Oh,
all
God.
Right. She just pooped?
Yep. In the kitchen.
In the kitchen?
Not
What
here.
the fuck?
Oh, God.
Pick it up.
I'm not picking it up.
Yeah, you are. You watched her do it. Here.
Oh, I didn't watch her do
Here.
it.
Where is it?
In the...
It's a bad girl, Tula. God damn this fucking dog.
I don't like her.
You just bad girl. That's a girl. God damn it. Here, Nate, you got. Nate, go down, go get a paper towel roll, please.
Get off my pillows. Yeah, you don't get anything.
So the so they go to lots so like it's suddenly it's later. It's like the Transformers thing, and it's later. And so they're sitting there and suddenly everybody in the city, all the men in both cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, they suddenly somehow know that these angels are in the city and they're suddenly gay for these guys. There's some sort of, almost like God reached out and made them gay suddenly. But not gay in that they're not like having like, oh, hey, it's another bunch of gay men are around me. They're specifically gay for these two guys that, how do they even know they're there? It's nighttime. They had just shown up, but somehow all the men in the city know that these two really handsome angels are there, I guess. Again, it only points to God's interference, right? Whatever you picture minus 5 or 10 or whatever year it is, whatever you picture it to look like, it's probably something similar to me where they're, guys with hammers are beating anvils and putting horseshoes on horses and shit and thatch roofs and, it's pretty yucky. So all these guys just sort of stop what they're doing and head over in a large mob to Lot's house. And they're like, hey, send out those two guys so we may know them. And again, nobody's like, while we're waiting, why don't we fuck each other now because we're all gay? That doesn't happen. And so Lot's like, let me take care of this. Those are my people. So he goes out and he's like, my people, what are you doing? These guys are great. Why would you want to have sex with them? And they're like, shut up, Lot. Send out those guys so we can rape them. And Lot's like, how about this? That's unacceptable. How about everybody knows I have these two beautiful daughters. They're virgins, so that means they're less than 13. 13, 11, 12, 11, 10, something like that. You have to put it in the context of the story, of the time frame, and on the time frame, that's how that works. At 12 years and 1 day, they get betrothed, and at 13, they become adults, and they get married, and they move on, and they start popping out babies. That's what they do. That's why Mary was probably 12 or 13 if she was still a virgin. And Joseph, who was significantly older than her, she wasn't a virgin. She was still a virgin even though they were betrothed. How that works. But shit, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so Lot's like, why don't you guys, I have these 2 virgin daughters, why don't I give them to you and you may do whatever you feel with them as a rape mob. But just leave those 2 guys that just showed up like an hour ago, leave those guys alone. I'm still making unleavened bread for them. Thankfully, those guys were like, no, we don't want to rape your daughters. We want those 2 guys that we should know are even in there in the first place. So they start coming towards Lot like, oh, zombies, you know. And suddenly Lot's back is against the house and the door opens and a hand grabs him and pulls him in. And as they do that, the angels make all of the men in the town blind. And so they're like right in front of the door, but they're blind, so now they can't find the door. And then stop.
All the blankets. He jumped on me. It was hitting me.
So we get another one of those later moments. Right? And now, I guess the rape mob's gone. Everybody's gone back home. Like, doesn't really say what happens. But the angels are like, man, that was really cool of you to offer your virgin daughters to that rape mob for us. We're going to let you in on a little secret. We're angels. That's why, everything happened. And God's going to destroy this whole area tomorrow. Rain, fire, and brimstone. He loves you so much. Rain, fire, and brimstone down upon everything. And, we're going to let you... We're letting you know so you can survive because you were so good to us. The virgin raped up, that thing. So we're gonna let you go, and your daughters and the boys that they're betrothed to, because they were betrothed. And so remember, this is all the same night. So now Lot goes to the boys' house, and he's like, "Hey, you guys," and they're like, "Hey, Mr. Lot." And they're like, hey, you remember how earlier today you were like gay, specifically gay, and then blind for a little while? They were like, yeah, that's really weird. We still like your daughters and all, so we don't know what that was about. And Lot was like, well, it's actually angels. God's going to rain fire and brimstone down upon us because he loves us so much, so we're going to get the fuck out of here and you're allowed to us. And they're like, what? You stupid, crazy old man. Nah, we were just blind and specifically gay for a little while. Shit like that happens all the time. We're not going to look too much into it. Get out of here, you crazy old man. And so Lot's like, fine. Don't say I didn't warn you. And so Lot leaves. Then it's a later. No, it's the next day. And their alarm clock didn't go off on time or something. And the angels are like, what are you doing here? And they're like, we're getting ready to leave. My wife, she's taking a long time. So the angels are like, fuck that, we gotta go. And they beam them outside of the outskirts of town. And they're like, all right, you gotta go to the town. You gotta go. And that's like, well, can I go to the town that's not too far from here? And they're like, oh, and I got a whole bit about it. Same basic bit as the Todd God thing, but it's the same thing. Like, suddenly they're like, okay, well, God said he was going to destroy everything, but yeah, you can go to this little town that's over there. Just whatever you do, don't look back, or else you'll be turned into a pillar of salt. And so they start making Godspeed across the desert to this town. And because women are stupid in the Bible, the wife looks back and she gets turned into a pillar of salt. So now it's just Lot and his 2 daughters. And the reason that they got to go to the town is because Lot was so old. He was in his 90s. He couldn't travel very far. So they get to the town and Lot's like, I think those angels might have been lying. Good thing I happen to have a little cave set up way at the top of that mountain over there, full of alcohol and food and the other basic necessities. mainly alcohol. Why don't we go there instead? So then him and his daughters, Mario jumping up to the top of the mountain, and they're in the cave. And now this is like where I always ask people with the Bible, like, so you're about to have a conversation that was had between Lot's two daughters in the cave. Who wrote that down? They didn't write it down. Were there little like naked butt cherubs flying around writing everything down? Lots and lots of times in the Bible there are conversations between one or two people. Or one person and God, whatever. Who was there writing down what was said? Don't you ever wonder how that works out? Maybe a little bit. But they having a conversation and they go, hey, older sister, say, hey, younger sister, you know how our dad is like awesome? And the younger one's like, yeah, he tried to totally give us to that rape mob to save those two strangers that showed up. I know, right? Isn't that great, older sister? And they say, well, it's too bad he doesn't have a boy child, a boy chick, to pass on his name. All he has is us two fucking piece of shit daughters. We need to fix that. And apparently there's nobody else left on the earth, because now they look out and they can see. Now you can look back and you can see that Sodom and Gomorrah is smoldering from all the fire and brimstone. And apparently, I think this is a complete destruction event, like worldwide, but I'm not really sure. They don't really elaborate. Because again, these girls act like there's no other option but for them to get their father so drunk. Just stop. Yeah, well then go in your room. The older daughter says, we're going to get our father so drunk tonight, and I'm going to lay with him and get pregnant, and then you'll do the same thing the next day. And so the next morning, she's like, yay, younger sister, it worked. I, who am a virgin, so 12, 11, 13 maybe, not only do I know that I'm pregnant, I also know it's a boy the very next day. You, younger sister, we need to do the same thing. So we're going to get our 90-plus-year-old father so drunk that he doesn't know, because if the man knows, it's bad, If the woman knows, she's just a woman, who cares? But we'll get him so drunk that he doesn't know what he's doing, and yet his 90-year-old dick is still going to work. And, we'll repeat the process. And they did. And the next day, the younger sister is like, yay, I did it. And I am with child. And it's a boy. And the two boys, they give birth to two great, great men. One is the leader of the Ammonites. And the other one is the leader of the Moabites. Funny thing is, the Nation of Islam founders, this is probably one of the biggest holy shits you'll ever see. At least it was for me. I don't know about you, but everybody knows who this piece of shit is, right? Everybody knows that. I can show you that picture, and everybody knows who that is. That happened to be the picture that when I looked him up, that was the one that just popped up. I didn't even look for this picture. This is the one that popped up. If I told you that's a young Netanyahu, would you believe me? Yeah. The likeness is eerily similar, isn't it? Like down to like the lips and all the facial features, like it's crazy. Right? Except for the fact that guy, the other guy, the not Netanyahu guy, is supposedly Wallace Muhammad, he's known by many different names, but he is the founder of the Nation of Islam. He appears in 1930 in Detroit. And by 34, he disappeared. 1934, he disappears. And he's already in his 40s or so when he first appears. And the only reason that we know these things is because there's a random newspaper article clipping that happened to get saved that talks about a guy named David Fard, a completely different name, but similar, buying a tamale stand in El Paso or some shit. Like, the evidence for it is just so insultingly them. But if I told you that the founder of the Nation of Islam was that guy, you wouldn't believe me. You assume it's got to be a black guy. The black Muslims, the black guy, the scary Muslims. Lots of child sex trafficking rings in Ukraine. Remember when that first came out? When the invasion, the unprovoked invasion first came out? And it was immediately, like, the rumor was that there was a bunch of child rings, that's what Putin was going after in Ukraine? In Ukraine? Remember that? And they just made it disappear, and Putin's a bad guy, so it doesn't, whatever he says, he's crazy. That's how they operate, right? You're crazy. But Wallace Fard Muhammad was partners with other guys. There were other smaller groups that were brought together. And one of the largest of the groups, I forgot the guy's name and what it's called, but they would preach that black people came from the Moabites. That's where black people came from. That's why apparently the dark skin, because it was a mutation that came from the inbreeding of a father and daughter, I guess, and the old man, the 90-year-old sperm, and his 12-year-old daughter, or some bullshit. Long live Lebanon, absolutely. But you can't just focus on Lebanon. You can't just focus on Palestine. You can't just focus on Iran. That's the result. You have to focus on the cause. And the cause is not Israel, because Israel doesn't exist. Israel is just a construct. They tell us Israel exists from here to here. Never expanding Israel, but from here to here. And we go, okay, if you say so. But Israel is it's like a Hollywood. Hollywood wasn't racist. Hollywood wasn't pedophilic. The same element in Hollywood that's in Israel are those things. Did bring the huge bombings in Lebanon on the last Passover. They did. The 100 strikes in 10 minutes that Israel bragged about after the ceasefire, which is why supposedly the strait is closed again. Like, that whole thing is all just bullshit anyway. But the Israel did the 100 strikes on Lebanon. It was just after the ceasefire was agreed to, and nobody was expecting it. So lots and lots of civilians were killed in that regard. 100 strikes in 10 minutes, and then went on TV and bragged about it. And that was on the last day of Passover. And if you look back in the history of, every year, go back and look at what happens during Passover, either at the beginning of Passover, at the end of Passover, whatever. There's always some reason why Israel spills a bunch of blood. And again, Israel's the thing I'm allowed to say, but, it's the friars. Israel, again, doesn't exist. It's the cult that is the problem. And again, at this point, the craziest thing to say is that the cult is hiding behind the genocide at this point. The genocide is not the worst thing that they do. You know, the genocide is tremendous and horrible, but the worst thing they do is what creates the people that can do the genocide. That you can have an entire group of people that like knows that, you know, you put them in a bus, you pull up to a neighborhood and they have to fight each other to get to the house because whatever house they can get to is their house because they had just cleared the Palestinians out of that neighborhood the week before. There's still food in the cabinets and shit. But whatever house they get to, that's their house now. And they don't have an issue with that. There's that famous clip of the one, if I don't steal your house, somebody else will.
Would you believe me?
If I don't steal your house, somebody else will.
Jacob, you know this is not your house.
Yes, but if I go, you don't go back. So what's the problem? Why are you yelling at me? I didn't do this. I didn't do this.
But
It's easy to yell at me, but I didn't do this.
you are stealing my house.
And if I don't steal it, someone else is going to steal it.
No one.
You see this?
You have to steal it, يا عمي.
זה לא שלי להחזיר.
If I don't steal it, somebody else will. That mentality, that fat, gross, disgusting piece of shit that he is, who not only can steal houses, but how do you get an entire society to have that mindset, right? I don't think any of us are like that. I don't think any of us want to, go into somebody else's home, into somebody else's region and just take it and then be like, all right, here, you can live off of this blood money and this blood fucking sacrifice and shit. We're not like that. If you knew that that a family was killed so that you could have your house, you'd be okay with that? Unnecessarily killed. You didn't have to kill them. That was just the easiest thing for them to do. The thing people don't understand is that the Palestine narrative should have been ended a long time ago. In the scheme of things, it doesn't really make sense that they would take Palestine, 86 to 90% of Palestine, while leaving the 10 to 14% left in a small area, almost surrounded area that's almost like a pen. It wouldn't make any sense because all you're going to do is foster resistance. You're going to foster resentment. And those people are going to keep trying to kill you. So why didn't they just take 100%? Why didn't they just say, fuck it? Like no other place does that. Tell me another time where in modern history where you heard about somebody, taking over somebody else's land and being like, all right, other than, the United States narrative, but here you can have this small little piece that we surround you and then we put a blockade on you. We don't let anything come in and we systematically slow kill you. Like, show me another situation where it works that way. You can't. And so you have to then start changing your thought process. That doesn't make sense from a military standpoint, even from a human standpoint, from a humanitarian standpoint. If they would have wiped out Palestine in 48 by 2026, we wouldn't be talking about it. That'd have been something that just happened. Another one of those fucking things that happened a long time ago, but whatever, it is what it is. And that would be only if they wanted us to, because again, we only talk about what they want us to talk about. So why didn't they take Palestine completely from the beginning and just save themselves all the headaches and all that bullshit, put themselves in danger, make themselves look bad to the world? Why would they do it this way? Outside of, it's a farm. They needed a farm. They have a lot of sacrifice rituals where blood needs to be spilled. You know? The blood libels. Passover, again, another big part of, but the idea of killing Christian children and using their blood for sacrificial rituals and shit. Well, I mean, isn't it interesting that Palestine had a large Christian population? Lebanon has a large Christian population. Lebanon has a huge Christian population. Strange how the Pope's not saying anything about it. Or is barely. You know, we finally have the Pope and Trump because the Pope's like, hey, it's enough with the killing already. Come on, it's getting too obvious. People are starting to ask me too much. You know, it's only been fucking 2.5 years of this shit going on. Yeah, 2.5 years of this shit going. We're coming up on 3 years. And the Pope is basically the only thing I've ever heard the Pope in the Vatican condemn was the October 7th attacks, which, again, this is a false flag. No Israelis died or were taken hostage on October 7th outside of those involved in the Hannibal Directive. But that was all staged bullshit. That was as fake. That's as fake as it gets. That's Trump shooting fake. That's Temple Israel event fake. I don't even know what you call that shit. Car job fake. Talked to my neighbor, right? And I was talking about it, and he didn't know. He doesn't get involved in that shit at all. And I was telling him the story about the Temple Israel. And I said, you know, the narrative is that he sat in the parking lot for 2 hours before he went in, rammed, and blah, blah, blah. And I went, and the thing he was like, wait, he sat in the parking lot at a synagogue, at a temple for 2 hours and nobody approached him? Like right there, that's just common sense. There's no way that would ever happen, especially at a synagogue. You park in a synagogue and you're not a car that's supposed to be there, and you just sit in the car, you will be approached within 5 minutes. And again, where's all the security camera footage from that day? Still waiting to see that shit. Hasn't come out yet. Still waiting to see the video Sheriff Bouchard said he saw that day. He said, when they asked him how he knew what had happened, he said he saw a video. Still haven't seen a video. Only video we've seen is the dude buying fireworks a couple days earlier, or whatever, day earlier. And the other thing that nobody else talks about is the fact that an hour after this event took place, that the entire world was paying attention to, that the largest police response I've ever seen to anything, where nobody died but the suspect, who, of course, conveniently shot himself in the head after he had done everything. Got in a gunfight, didn't hit anybody, lit his car on fire with the fireworks and the shit in it, but the video doesn't show any fireworks, you don't hear any fireworks. He had $2,000 worth of fireworks in his car, and there's no evidence of it, other than him supposedly buying fireworks. And at this point, with the Netanyahu fakes that you've seen, and all the 6 fingers and the 3 legs on the space station, why would you trust anything you see anymore? They can clearly create fake shit that unless you absolutely go over it with a fine-tooth comb, you're going to think is real. Dan Bilzerian, he's not gay. Look at all the pictures of him with hot chicks. Look, they're 2 chicks. He's not gay. Look, he's macho. He has a beard and he has muscles. He's not gay. He hates gay. Gay's bad. Dan Bilzerian, it's such an obvious thing to me, right? Like, Randy fucking Fine, he's a piece of shit. Like, he needs to be removed and all that. He's awful. And they know that. They probably don't even like him very much. He's fat, he's stinky, he's a jerk. And maybe he just wants to take some time off. But if they give us a Dan Bilzerian, it's like, oh, look, we were some progressive, we got some prog, blah, blah. That dude is a psycho. Dan Bilzerian is a fucking nut job. His obsession with Jesus and then refusal to take it to its logical origins, like he purposefully stops the narrative when it gets to the fact that the Bible is a Jewish fairy tale. It's all the main characters are Jewish. There's no like conspiracy. Jesus was a first century Jewish preacher. That's what the fucking, that's what it says. No, it's the Schofield Bible. Oh yeah. Now we're gonna go with in the early 1900s. Now you're just gonna start believing the history when it works for you. I always wonder that about the Tartaria people and alternative history people. It's like, well, I know you'll bring up certain stuff for this, that, and the other, but how do you know any of it's real? What makes you, it's like with the Bible, what makes you decide which parts are to be interpreted and which parts are to be taken literally? Where does that power come from? Right? You rather have Dan than get filth boy? Well, that's what I'm saying. That's how they do things, right? They always, the shit sandwich versus the douche. And which one do you hate worse? The one you hate worse is the one you're not going to vote for. So I hate this guy less than I hate this guy. This guy says a lot of the good things. He says some really awful, atrocious, bad things, but because, he says 50% good, whereas the big fat turd says 0% good, I'm going to go with 50% over 100 or over 0. And I can understand that. That's why it works. But it's isn't it interesting? Like, if you've been following me for any length of time, you saw me openly question who Dan Bilzerian is and do a deep dive into him one day. We did it with Nick Fuentes. We did it with Ian Carroll. We've done it with a few people. But Dan was one of those people. And literally like a day or two before the announcement that Dan's running for Congress came out, I was asking, hey, has anybody heard of Dan Bilzerian in a while? I was wondering what happened to that guy. I haven't heard his name or seen him pop up in anything. And I was seeing him everywhere for a minute there. Anything's better than them supremacy. You're right. I get it. But it still is. That's the thing. People just aren't understanding. As long as you have somebody that's pushing the Jesus narrative, especially as hard as Dan pushes it, you still have the themish supremacy controlling you. He's still pushing their shit. Jesus is their shit. Right? They're still controlling. That's why he's allowed to be in the position he's in. That's why he's allowed to have those unbelievable numbers. He doesn't even post as much. He hasn't been posting as much recently, and he's still. And again, it's easy to do when your dad's a trust fund. If I had millions of dollars and I could just, like that one doofus fucking critic guy who's like, he's going to steal something and put it in the bag, and then at the end he goes, wealth. If you have money, people will want you. You can buy your way around the censorship, especially if you're not saying, if you're providing a distraction. If you're a good distraction, they're going to elevate you. As soon as you start stepping out of line, you'll notice. So is there a way to break through the glass ceiling of the supremacy? Yeah, it's weird how we're also programmed to think it's somebody else. You've seen all of your heroes, whether it's sports heroes or music heroes or whatever, anytime they win anything, the proper thing to do is to pretend like the God of the universe picked you over everybody else. That's the humble thing to do. The arrogant thing to do would be like, oh my gosh, I worked so hard for this. I sacrificed so hard for this. And so did everybody around me. And I thank everybody for helping me so much. And I appreciate you for appreciating me. And oh man, this is so amazing. All that hard work and dedication finally paid off. Like, thank you. Like, if you said that, you didn't give your praise to God. Oh, he didn't thank God. He thanked himself. How arrogant. If I sit here and I tell you guys, go watch this other guy, right? This other guy he researches everything. He's constantly trying to prove himself wrong. So he goes into things blind and he just looks into it. And if it works, it works. And most of the time, surprisingly, it fits the narrative that he's talking about. And he's unafraid and he's not even that ugly. You know, he could be uglier, that's for damn sure. So everybody be like, oh, what's his name? Let me go check him out. That's cool. As soon as I go, hey, I'm that guy. I'm fucking great at what I do. I might not be the best basketball player in the world. I might not be the best accountant in the world. But when it comes to this shit right here, I'm the best. Oh, you're just arrogant. And why do you believe in yourself? Why do you have confidence? I don't have confidence in my own self. Why do you? Like, that's how we're all programmed to be. I even get weird. Like, Matt's given me compliments before, and I'm like, ah, thanks. Like, it's weird to get compliments. Because that's just how we've been programmed. We have to use our brains for once. Just like those superhero movies. Right, why do you think all of those appeal to us so much? Why do you think movies like The Matrix, movies like Avatar, why do you think those are the biggest movies of all time and not the cheesy religious movies? Because we know it. We understand it when we see it. We know the truth when we see it, and we're drawn to it. That's why there's so many people that watch me and claim they hate me so much, yet they come here every day. Either it's because they're assigned to, or because it's the truth. The truth is attractive, and not in a you want to fuck it kind of way. Just, attractive. It draws you in. And when you see those movies like that, like all of those movies that basically say the same thing, that the Goyim unite and rise against the machine, we all know that's the truth. We all understand that we shouldn't be, living the way we do, where we all barely make it. Where come the day before payday, you're like, nah, I can't do anything today because I don't get paid till tomorrow. And like, that's not life. We're all just barely getting by so we can be the cogs in the wheel. And anybody that talks about depopulation, they just don't understand how things work. Of course they're not going to depopulate us. Not until iRobot exists in full. And maybe, that's a lot closer than you think. There was apparently a pretty crazy video of a robot chasing away hogs the other day. I never saw it. I don't like looking at those videos. Those videos fucking scare me. But if it's between Randy Fine and Dan Bilzerian, who are you going to vote? Come down to just not vote. Exactly. That's the power. As long as we're saying, okay, I'll still play along, then they have us. But if we say, no, I'm not voting at all, and they get a 5% turnout compared to the, 5% of what they're expecting to turn out, it's just them. It's just a bunch of oldies. And the people are out there like, nah, this isn't our thing. We oppose this shit. Vocal. That's what sends the message. Not we'll just vote for the lesser of two evils. We are born into this system. Exactly. And what always appeals to us the most is somebody that breaks free from the system. Although easier said than done, that's why intellectual minds need to form a strategy team. Those good soldiers and veterans to tactical battle team, etc. Well, but it comes down to understanding. Before we can do anything, we can't just form anything. We have to create an understanding. People have to have that confidence that you have, Matt, and a lot of people don't. Most people still think they're not allowed to even talk about them, let alone criticize them. Most people accept authority, especially if you're a Christian. Man, that's how they are. and blame Jesus and said friars correct and did nothing wrong. Jesus would never call out the Pharisees. Jesus sounded like we do. About Jesus supposedly was against this. I don't know how much of that I believe either. I think that's just people's interpretation. From what I've read, Jesus just wants people to believe in him and believe that he's the Son of God. And if you don't do that, then you're wrong. Do you air like a dozen ceiling fans? Yes. 1,000,000 of them. Georgia Guidestones. Yeah, that was just something to pay attention to. I mean, it is weird that they destroyed them, but that was probably just part of the lure. The thing is, like, pretending like we can't figure out who made... That's the part that's funny to me. Like, somebody owned the land. Somebody owned the land. Somebody commissioned the stones. It was made that way for a reason. And you can follow permits and shit to get your answers. But that doesn't seem to be the way people want it to go. Come on, let's go outside. Go. People don't want to follow the truth. People want to, they want their excuse. They want their reason why. Come on, you can do it. Come on, you can do it. That's a big girl. Good girl. Good girl. People want to be able to say, oh, well, I would do it if it wasn't for this. The devil. It's the devil. I love when people, like that dumbass earlier, act like I'm so good at what I'm doing, it must be supernatural. That's why he can't best me. They don't realize that's what they're saying. If you're saying that it must be the devil, he's making me think in ways I don't want to think in, and he's saying things I can't override. He's the devil. Like, that's the only way that makes sense. I stopped voting after a lifetime of voting and nothing ever happened. I never fell for it, but after 2016, how anybody can still fall for that shit is just beyond me. Right? 2016 is the most egregious example that you have ever seen, and it's so obvious. Trump runs on all the fucking promises, all the stupidity. He's going to drain the swamp is one of his big ones. Drain the swamp being AIPAC. In 2016, both him and Hillary took a break from their campaign at the same time and went to the AIPAC policy conference where neither allegiance to Israel. And, if you paid attention, they made it seem like the news and like the sort of like progressive side of things was on the Hillary side, and then it was the Trump side was the. But if you really paid attention, the news kept dropping all kinds of stupid stories about Hillary. Well, real stories, but some of which were stupid, like the breaking of the phones and the computers, and that's a big time story. But one of the last attempts they made was just before, so the Friday before the next week when the elections happened on the Tuesday, the Friday, maybe it was the Thursday, they dropped the bomb about Danny, Danney Williams, who is clearly Bill Clinton's biological child. Halfy, he's a halfy. He looks like a good-looking halfy version of Bill. I mean, they've been paying him and his mother to be quiet since they were little. Obviously, it wasn't like it was some guy that came out of nowhere who happened to look like Bill. They've been paying this guy paying his mom since he was born. So obviously they knew. But suddenly this story leaks. And it's meant to tickle the racism because he's a halfie and any little last minute jabs they can get in. because Danny's set to get the DNA test on the following, like, Tuesday, so the results of the test won't come out until after the election's over anyway. And then that story just dies. It just completely dies. There's no follow-up. There's no nothing. And Bill would refuse. Bill refused to take the DNA test. You know, that's why what you're doing is once they're awake, it's hard to not talk about or think about. I mean, you can't even watch TV. You know, like I said, yesterday morning I was watching Tears for Fears, Head Over Heels. I was watching that video. Something happens. Because I was like, how did this fucking... Actually, I was wondering if the dude was gay, and I figured I'd watch the video and find out. And yeah, he's gay. Like so many couples are getting married or were getting married, and still it's like a love song, and it's dudes, and those are the people that are gonna be like, ugh, I hate gay people. So fucking weird. But in the video, you know, there are multiple extras who are in the video, and it's like, it's the typical, she's a librarian. I don't know why librarians were such a huge deal in the 80s, but boy, were they fucking ever. God damn. But there's multiple people in the library, and one of the people is a Hasidic penguin. And he, when you total it up, like, he gets way more screen time than any other extra. And it's just that kind of stuff. Like, I would have never noticed it before, or I would have known, but never thought too much of it. Now I look at it and I'm like, gee, that's strange. I wasn't even looking for it. I didn't even think it was going to happen. I didn't think the guy looked like he was overly friar to begin with. I didn't think anything of it. And then suddenly that's forced into my head. We're talking about 2% of the U.S. population, 0.183% of the world's population. The chances of any of us running into a Hasidic guy in our everyday lives is slim to none by those ratios, even though depending on where you live, seems to happen a lot. But I'm sure there are plenty of states, Wyoming, Montana, and shit, where you never run into them. I never really watched TV much as an adult. Only cartoons as a kid. Maybe that's why I was able to fall into this so easily. I think it's just because you want, you know, it's a decision that you make. And you're young. Your generation has been going through this. You've had the internet since you can remember. Like that, you're on a different level. You've had access to truth in ways that no other people before you did. At 26, you're probably like, you're like the first real generation to actually have that. You know, for me, you know, I'm 20 years older than you. And I remember when all the changes happened. I remember life before the change. You know, there's a definite shift in humanity that takes place with the advent of the internet and phones and everything that comes from it. And you don't remember time like that. You don't know what that's about. I mean, if you're 26, you're born in 2000. You don't remember it. You can't. And so you have this leg up on people where you had this truth available to you in ways that, as a kid, I could only dream of. You have no idea what it's like to have a VHS tape to watch porn and be trying to sneak that shit into the fucking DVD, into the VHS, the VCR, and you know, hope nobody hears you and shit. That's insane. It definitely was. There's definitely a something missing from today, especially for the kids. You know, the generation of kids today, it's weird. They live inside. They don't even want to go do it. We have to limit our kids' shit. I mean, it's because of that, but come on. If we didn't limit our kids, they'd be 24-hour addicts. They'd play as much as they could.
Yeah,
What's up?
she ran in, jumped on cow, and to get on me.
Hey, what are you doing, dude? You cannot do that. You're too big. Stop, Nate. Yeah, go get your own if you want it. I hate kids so much. That's because we are the algorithms of this world. Why can't we speak in public about certain things? Because we are what we accept around us. Watching the docs on YouTube about Israel for years, and I'm 42. I'm just knew war was wrong and wanted to understand. Well, I mean, the thing that's hardest to do is to accept that even the things that you like are part of the manipulation. And so, like, it really depends on which docs you're watching and what information you're getting, who it's from, you know, who's funding that person. You know, like most people, again, everybody's so distracted by the genocide thing that they're not looking at what's underneath, what's causing it. This supremacy, the pedophilic supremacy that's underneath it is the problem. It's not, it is the cult. You can't keep saying that. Like, does anybody think there are good NAMBLA members? Right? Can anybody say, oh, I think this guy's good. He belongs to NAMBLA. He says he doesn't partake in any of the actual physical relations aspect of things, but he does vote and he gives a lot of money for them, and he works the events. You know, they have these big fairs every couple months where they bring in a whole bunch of rides and games, and it's a really fun atmosphere, and thousands of kids show up and everyone has a good time. And you know, they assault like 4 or 5 kids out of it, but you know, thousands come and don't get assaulted. So the 4 or 5 kids are, it's stop. The 4 or 5 kids thing, it's you know, it is what it is. But you know, I support that. That, you know, who thinks that's okay? Does anybody think that that's an okay thing? Would anybody think that's okay? Would you accept that person, or would you even believe that that person who says that they don't partake, even though they belong to and support and attack anyone that stands up against it, would you assume that they don't actually do it? Would you accept them? You know, you can't say that you can't keep being afraid to take it to the fullest. Zionism is the boogeyman that they give you. You know, they said, okay, you guys are you know too much, you're seeing too much, so you're on the verge of blaming the cult itself, and we don't want you doing that. So here, blame that. This is called Zionism. You know, this is the bad ones believe in this. There's lots of good ones. They don't believe in it. There's a thing, and when you read the first Aliyah, it says the majority of the settlers in the first Aliyah were not your standard Zionists. They were hardworking farmers who just wanted a better life for their families. Period. This was the beginning of Zionism in Palestine. Like, it goes right into it. Their you know, self-awareness, like situational awareness, is non-existent. And you see this, like, it's just wild. It's just wild. We only learn American knowledge in school, so we look up.
Stop this
For
song.
reality, same goes with all schooling. Right. Poor countries have more happiness without the internet. Some do. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know how to be happy knowing there's so much suffering in the world. Like, I'm not somebody that thinks my TV watching experience is better, or my phone experience is better because I have the newest and best phone, and other people can't afford this. Like, it's one thing to have the best stuff, but because other people can't afford it, if that makes your situation better, you're on a different level. I don't understand that. I don't have that need to be like, look what I have and you don't. Nah, like that. That's just weird, especially when it comes to basic shit, like bare necessities and whatnot. Like, sure, collect what you want to collect and stuff. That's cool. But, to think like, other people don't have what I have. They can't drink water because they don't have the same shit. Like, that's bullshit. Or the same thing to thinking like you have more rights to life than somebody whose parents had sex somewhere else. Like, we have to start looking at things at the core. It's until you're willing to say, I've been lied to about everything. Everybody's so arrogant. A great way to prove it is JFK. Because the vast majority of us don't buy the JFK narrative. Which is a nice way of saying we believe that the government is lying to us. If you don't believe what they tell you about JFK, Lee Harvey, and the getting 8 shots off in or 3 shots off in 8 seconds, one of which being the magic bullet. If you nobody believes that shit. Nobody. And so by saying that, you're saying the government's official narrative is a lie. It's not a mistake. It's not a misunderstanding. It's a flat out lie. It's a cover up. It's as bad as it gets. And most of us are willing to say that. And that's because, almost unintentionally, we've all sort of seen, at a certain age, younger kids, they have no idea. But we've seen, different segments of this or that where they investigated it, and it's a hot topic for a long time. And it's just common sense. You look at that and you go, yeah, no, there's no such thing as magic bullets. That just in itself is enough to end the conversation. Magic bullet. And then when you look more into it, you go, yeah, no way. Ended up pristine on the fucking gurney, but like, no, it's just dumb. It's insultingly stupid. But when it comes to other things, you believe it because you haven't bothered to put in that same research. If you could say you looked into it as much as you looked into the Kennedy thing or whatever, and you still believe it, that's one thing. But most of you have no idea what your religion says. You have no idea. You have this cursory sort of memory. You have this cursory sort of memory of what your high school narrative was told to you. You kind of remember that shit. And so you think you can get into, but you haven't looked into anything. And you definitely, the only time you actually look into stuff is when you disagree. You don't look into stuff when you agree because you don't want that to, you don't scrutinize stuff when you agree because you don't want it to be false. You look into it, but you scrutinize the things you disagree with. And that's the difference. People will go to great lengths to maintain their delusional beliefs. Especially when it comes to Christianity or Islam or anything like that. You will openly, no, I don't want to hear it. And that's the weirdest thing to do when it's something that's supposedly true. When it's something that you supposedly have pride in. Like, if you're proud of this thing, you should be more than willing to look into it, scrutinize it, knowing that you're going to come out on top. That's my thing. I know no matter what I look into, I'm probably going to win. But even if I don't, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with being wrong. I don't internalize things like in that level, on that level, where it's like, You know, my foundation isn't based on any one sort of belief structure like so many other people's is. Here's Jane, look up company tone, you learn why. You have 7-Eleven every good. I don't think you need to learn that. I think you already know that. And all that stuff is bottom up stuff. You're not looking from the top down. You have to look that's how they get us. Every one of these little things are tentacles. Tentacles of the same monster. And if you cut off one tentacle, if you can even do it, you know, it either grows back, sometimes two grow back in its place. The tentacles are so much. Nate, did you want some too? Well, what do you want? What? Of course not. You can't have them anyway. That's all you want? Huh? Too much penis last night? What? The Vatican caught my action. Yeah, I mean, that's sort of where I started, I guess. Like, when it never made sense. I never could look at any sort of religious narrative and think, okay, I believe that, I assign to that. You know? Like, it was always so questionable to me, and I'd always wonder, like, how does anybody ever believe this shit? I'd get forced to go to church in certain circumstances, and I'd sit there sort of dumbfounded, just like, what is going on here? Most of this shit is the same type of stuff that I'm told I'm not supposed to believe in when it comes to like superheroes and shit, and yet these guys believe it as their like what is going on? It was always weird to me. So I'm really interested in knowing like the narrative of how somebody goes from a believer. Like, I really want to know from the people that claim that they used to be an atheist. But those guys never have much to say. But I just, it's, you know, it's a different thing if you come from it. And for me, I always used to look at stuff like the Vatican and just be like, you know, how does anybody believe this is horrendous? This is awful. The Vatican is clearly a monstrous organization. And it's more of what they don't do. You know, the Vatican is so big and powerful and rich, they could absolutely end world hunger. They could end the pedophilia problem pretty easily. They could at least handle it differently, but they do what they do in how they do it, and that to me should be a red flag for people, and I'm always shocked that it's not. Like, how do you... I know that if you were somehow violent, somebody that you loved was violent, you'd be furious at everybody else for turning a blind eye. Yet you do it in your everyday life when it comes to your belief structure. There's not a single fucking person who can say, oh, I had no idea that the church is associated with horrible shit like pedophilia and rape. You're not that much of an asshole that you would lie that openly. You'd feel stupid. Mm-hmm. It's like to me when people say I used to be a Trump supporter. It's like, if you used to be a Trump supporter, I have a hard time believing in you being a good guy. Is that all you're gonna want?
Maybe another one. Maybe.
You want two more?
I think probably.
Yes or no? Because I'm gonna make them. If you don't eat them, I'm gonna stick them in your ears. You're gonna eat them? You know, I used to be a Trump supporter until, like, this was something that was really bugging me. Algo shared with me a video from a guy called Flynn O'Quinn or Quinn O'Flynn or some shit like that. Some old white guy, white hair, older than me, I think. And he's supposed to be a good guy, right? Like he did this video and it was like an address to sort of Israel. And he was saying like he started out by saying, you know, prior to and even after October 7th, I was an Israel supporter. But it was when I started noticing things and asking questions, and the way I was treated just for asking questions really made me mad. And I was like, hey, fuck that. You know, I was asking you questions, you gotta be nice to me. And they weren't nice to me. So I was like, fuck Israel. And then I go, like, how did you ever, you know, and even he ends the video by, and he ends it by going, you know, and if you guys would just answer some questions, you get some of your supporters back, maybe even me included. And I just go, how could you, what do you mean? Why did you need, you know, you're saying that you condoned genocide, you condoned all the different rape, you condoned all the worst things in the world up until you stopped getting it your way. Up until they stopped being nice to you. Once that happened, then you finally were like, hey, what's going on? They're bad. Like, that to me is just unacceptable. And that's the thing that you see so often. All you people that are, even Abby Martin, right? Abby Martin's making waves right now because she put out some video about, you know, Abby Martin went to Israel and it's worse than you think. And she says shit like, you know, Israel has gone complete fascist, and she makes it sound like there's some sort of change that's happened. That Israel used to be something else. That it's not always been about genocide, colonization, destruction, and child rape. Like there's, you know, there was no time when they weren't fascists, when they weren't bad guys. They've always been the fucking bad guy. And pushing some narrative that you know, that used to be a different time is dangerous.
Can you give me some juice, please?
God damn it.
Forgot about it for weeks.
I know, well, it wasn't an accident. That's why I've always stayed away from religion. Yeah, it's nasty. It really is nasty. It's, you know, at the end of the day, what's more important than protecting children, especially from fucking rape? And when you start putting your own personal needs above children in general, like there's something else going on there. What the fuck are you talking about? Well, I want to go to heaven when I die. And the only way you go to heaven when you die is if you completely ignore everything going on and you just row the boat. You don't tip the boat. You don't rock the boat. You row the boat. And I'm going to be the best boat rower I can be. Like, that's basically the narrative that's given. And I'm so tired of it. You know, I'm so fucking sick of... Where's your cup?
No cup.
Well, and where's the black cup?
Can you just give me some milk?
No? What the hell you want milk for? Weirdo. These monsters are the absolute bane to all of our good people's existence. It's pretty fucked up. I mean, I don't. I try to understand. I try to give people
It's good for the bones.
a platform to be able to express your side of things and explain things and all that stuff. And nobody takes it because they can't. Right? I just want to save the children personally. I want to save all of us. I want to save all of us. It's not about just the children. You know? That's part of the thing that we're not supposed to say. Like, I'm not supposed to say, I want my life to be better. And I do. I don't want my life to be wretched and awful. I don't want my life, you know, if for my kids to have the best life, their dad needs to be the best dad he can be. My grandchildren have to have the best grandfather they can have. I want to be the best I can be. I want my wife to be as happy and as best she can be. I want my children to be the best they can be. I want everybody that's important to me to live the happiest, healthiest, safest life possible. And the only way that could ever happen is if everyone is living the happiest, healthiest, safest lives possible. True selfishness, and that's the key to the salvation. Right? That's how we get through all this bullshit. Being truly selfish, you know? And by being truly selfish means you don't want anybody else to suffer, because suffering is the foundation of most crime and shit, necessity, and, you know, people do what they have to do in a lot of cases, and you just get stuck. And instead of that, we just need to make things better. This is the essence of it all, is to make things better. And if you're like, no, I want to live in the past and have some crazy ass belief structure that was supposedly hinges on some fairy tale bullshit from thousands of years ago, that, you know, just wait. It's gonna come true here any day now. Any day. Just follow the rules. These are the special people. You're just the grunt and the slave, but just follow the rules, because any day now, the Armageddon destruction's coming. I mean, it's all so fucking ridiculous. It's ridiculous. No, I shouldn't be able to do what I do. If the world is what it is, and I'm wrong about all this shit, there should be a good number of people in here consistently, making points that stop me, that shut me up, that make me look stupid. It shouldn't be such a one-sided beatdown from my side. But it is, because the narrative is all just broken and wrong. I'm not some fucking special anything. I'm just honest. And because I'm not associated with any sort of set structure, I see things differently. That's all. If you're blinded by your Christianity, if you're trying to prove your own narrative right, I think of it from Dr. Judy Wood is one of the most influential people in my life. And it's not because I've looked into all of her shit or anything like that. Her take on 9/11 is spectacular. But it was one thing she said. And she said that she's a forensic engineer. And so what she does is she goes to a place and she doesn't want to hear from anyone. She doesn't want to hear anybody's theories. She doesn't want to hear any of the details. She just wants to show up to the scene and let the scene tell her what happened. Because anytime you start getting other people's feedback, that starts contaminating things, and you start trying to prove one thing or another. And if you show up to a building and you think it's a structural collapse, then that's what you're going to be looking for, is the signs of a structural collapse. If you say it's an explosion, then you're going to look for the signs of an explosion, and there's always going to be those signs in things. You're going to have to ignore other things. You might even subconsciously just ignore other things because you're looking in this one direction. So I approach everything from that same perspective, the forensic archaeologist. And that I'm trying to, I don't want to hear what what else people, I want to know what it says. What does it say? And at the end of the day, what it says is just what some people agreed to it saying, especially when it comes to Wikipedia, which is the number one source of information in the world. But Wikipedia it might not be the 100% truth, but it's 100% the truth that they want us to know, especially when it comes to stuff about Israel and friars. They control it for their own benefit. And so everything that you read that has to do auto-emancipation and Havara Agreement and Act.io, these are all things that directly associate with them. Those are the things that are going to be the most balanced and Zionist in nature. You guys are wondering what I'm talking about, so... So this is Naftali Bennett. Currently, he is a former Israeli prime minister. At the time of the video, he is a future Israeli prime minister. This is 2010 when he's talking to IsraelNationalNews.com. He's as high-ranking of an Israeli as you can get.
In conjunction with My Israel, has arranged instruction day for wiki editors. The goal of the day is to teach people how to edit in Wikipedia, which is the number one source of information today in the world. As a way of example, if someone searches the Gaza flotilla, we want to be there. We want to be the guys who influence what is written there, how it's written, and to ensure that it's balanced and Zionist in nature.
I came here to learn.
If you really break that video down and you look at every time he says when he's trying to find the best words to use, when he's trying to sanitize things. So he says they have arranged, meaning they demanded, a meeting with the Wikipedia editors to teach, meaning again, to demand, not to teach, to demand that they post things in the way that they want them posted. And by the end, he says to make sure that everything is balanced and he thinks, do I soften this and say balanced and paints Israel and the Jewish people in a fair light? Or something? He said, nah, you know what? Fuck it. Everything is balanced and Zionist in nature. Right? Zionist, that's the word he chose to use. And just so everybody understands, Zionism, according to Wikipedia, that's why I use Wikipedia. It's their number one source of information. Okay, well, it's definitely not going to be any goy interference here, especially on the pages that are all locked up. They don't even give the illusion that you could edit this page. Because the pages that have that illusion on them, where you think you can edit, you can suggest an edit. It's then sent to the editors who decide whether your shit is balanced and Zionist. And if it is, it fits. If it's not, it disappears. Zionism is an ethno-cultural nationalist movement that emerged in the late 19th century Europe to establish and support a friar homeland through the colonization in the region of Palestine, which roughly corresponds to the land of Israel in friarism itself, central to friar history. Zionists wanted to create a friar state in Palestine with as much land, as many friars, and as few Palestinian Arabs as possible. They can't say none, because none means they would have to do all the work. They need a slave quarters. They need a place for the workers to live. That's what they had. That's what it was. I don't know what they're... Well, I do know what they're doing now. So what most people don't know or understand is that Israel, and it was either early 2023 or early 2022. I think it's early 2023. They bought 42,000 slaves, supervised laborers from Delhi, from India. 38,000 earmarked for construction jobs, and the other 4,000 were for elderly care. Because even the friars don't want to take care of their own elderly. And those were the jobs that Palestinians did. It's not like they had this influx of work that they couldn't staff. No, they had planned for this for a long time. They were planning on removing the Palestinians. That's why you haven't heard about a huge disruption. That's why they keep posting videos going, there's no war. Look, this is our lives. And they're having parties and everything's fine. Because their lives are still running the way they should, because they have all of the fucking Indian labor in there now. And the Indian labor is a lot easier to identify. You know, when it's the Palestinians, they look the same. The Indians don't look like Semitic people. Sorry for listening to you, honestly. I draw the lines. You know, my thing is, look, I believe I'm being as honest as I can be. If I'm wrong about anything, I encourage people to address it, and then I'll look into it more. Or you can address it and help me. But, you know, I don't know anybody else doing this. You know, something that nobody talks about is that Ian Carroll appears on social media in March of 2023. He just appears. There's no Ian Carroll online, no social media, nothing. There is nothing that associates Ian Carroll with existing prior to March of 2023. And to me, that's just a simple, like, how is that possible? How does a youngster who is apparently so proficient at being online go from non-existent to on the Joe Rogan show in a little over a year or so? Because India had Ethiopian friars. Friars are everywhere, no doubt. They remind you of that all the time. By the way, if you're watching and you think 9 viewers and 14 likes is normal, then leave it. Don't say anything. Don't do anything. But if you see those numbers and you think, wow, 2,500 subscribers and those kind of, that's pretty low, do something about it. I don't want to say too much. I don't want to say the trigger words, because every time I seem to say the trigger words, my feed gets tanked. But y'all know what I mean. You know, the thing is, I'm not some genocidal freak or anything. What I would hope more than anything is that especially this newest generation of friars, that deep inside, they've been so abused. You know, they've had so many horrible things done to them that it's really hard to think past it. So it's this weird situation where you actually end up blaming the victims because they were raised to do this. And you're saying, why didn't you know better? And it's because they weren't raised to know better. But you think something inside you has to know it's wrong. And what I would hope is that given the opportunity to renounce their shit and still live a great life and, say, hey, it's 2028, guys just won the presidency. Being a friar is no longer legal in the United States, so you get this one chance. We'll fly you to the Jewish Autonomous Oblast, and hopefully you can make it work there. We're not taking you to Palestine where you can go oppress and murder more Palestinians. You've already done enough of that, and you won't want to be there. Because as the Americans who created the problem, we have to fix the problem. You can't just say, oh, let's just pull out and let it all work itself out. Well, one side has a plethora of American-made weapons, while the other side has rocks and sticks, and that's not fair. But, hey, Detroit, we need to make it so that, it's illegal here. And hopefully they go, yeah, you know what? I don't want to be a part of this metzitzia, pedophile, soul correction, Lakewood, places like Lakewood, they're everywhere. I don't think people understand. They're doing what they did in Palestine here. They're doing it. It's just more secretive here. And because they control the narrative a lot more, it's not through bloodshed and whatnot. It's through legislation and unlimited financing. Right? Like they're horrible, horrible monsters. And Lakewood doesn't try to emulate Israel in everything they do. They don't live a Talmudic life. They don't live by stringent Talmudic principles, but they've cut out the two that the Goyim frown upon. The metzitzia and the the selling of children. Like this is so awful. I mean, it really is just so awful. I feel so bad for not just the children, but for each and every one of them. Every one of them is victimized in that regard. And it's created these little monsters that are running around. Like, you guys have seen it. Pat's one of the people. Where I read the Israel Hayom Bottom of Darkness article that's shining a light on the ritual aspects and talking about how it's happening every 2 weeks. Soul correction, they didn't report it like this used to happen. They're saying every 2 weeks, the people are getting together in large groups where the adults all form a circle naked around the kids, and that's why they want it in Palestine so bad. So they have the year-round weather, so they don't have to worry about it getting too cold. Like the Jewish Autonomous Oblast isn't like super cold, but it's also it has climates. It does get chilly in the winter, and being naked outside would be uncomfortable. Not in Palestine though. That makes sense now. But this shit's happening every 2 weeks where it's a naked circle of adults around an inner circle of naked children. And they sing songs and they do psalms and rich and verses and all kinds of weird, goofy ritual shit, and then they rape the children. And this is happening every 2 weeks. It literally won't let me share and broke my messenger app. It won't even load. I can't send you a screenshot either. I will when it works. So does everybody think Matt's lying? Is that another one of those we're just going to go with that's a lie? Why is one of my bigger supporters having an impossible time trying to share some shit? Why would Messenger suddenly shut down and not let him share something with? What do you think that's just coincidental? It says waiting for network. What do you think that is? Have you guys ever seen a feed like this before? All the weird shit that goes on. 14 likes, 11 watchers, 2,500 some subscribers. The weird invasion that comes through, gets their ass kicked, and then runs off. How come this isn't what happens on the big truther pages? It's all really strange. For somebody that only has 10 likes or 10 viewers, there sure seems to be a lot of effort put into me. I'm not some big name. I'm not allowed to be. Every time my video gets going strong, they shut it down. Anytime my feed gets going well, they shut it down. I have to edit the way I speak. I want to restart my phone, but I don't want to miss you. It's okay. I'm not going to say anything important anyway. I'll let you know if I do. It's really weird, man. It's all really weird. If I didn't experience what I experienced, I would stop. You know, I don't have the numbers to justify, you know, the beliefs that I have and the determination that I have. You'd say to somebody, well, dude, you only have 10 viewers. Like, it's no big deal. But it's the infiltration and the interference that says a lot more to me than anything else. It's goofy. Like, anybody that sees this, you'd have to be, you know, pretty fucking determined not to see what's going on. You'd have to really be like, you know, no, you know, this is just normal. The more popular ones are stopped by being sued and allegations against them like InfoWars. You think that's what it is, or do you think maybe Alex just wanted a break? Alex Jones has been going for a very long time. Alex has been, you know, Bill Hicks. I don't know about the Bill Hicks thing, but Alex is you know, he's a puppet. And look at him now. I mean, Alex is really trying to tread water with all of his Israel support. While also, like, because it's like, dude, why haven't you been talking about this thing? And anybody that ever talks about it, you scold them. Mr. Jones, the Jays are responsible for... Wait, let me ask you something. Would you think that we should just get rid of the friars? Yes, Mr. Jones. Okay, well, that's where I'm going to stop you. I am friar. Right? He uncovered the grove. Did he? Did he uncover the grove? Did you see? Okay, so think about what that video is. You have a video from really grainy video from really far away that shows something, but, you know, you can't really see what's going on. You can hear screaming and stuff like that, but you can't see what's going on. And then that's that. Like, and there's really nothing footage-wise that shows anything. And what came of it? Nothing. Nothing. It came and went. It was gone. Knowing about it is a small piece. You're okay, but, you know, instead of real infiltration going on, like, you're telling me nobody's been able to infiltrate better than that? Nobody's been able to set up secret cameras. They don't have any super ultra high zoom cameras. Like, none of the waiters have been compromised with button cameras. Nothing like that. It on the surface, it seems like some sort of expose. But it's like Ted Gunderson, right? Ted Gunderson is the man. Ted Gunderson was a former FBI chief, all the credentials you need to be taken legitimate. And he came out and, you know, he brought attention to Franklin, or at least that's what we're told, is he sort of brought the attention to it. But it's because of this guy that the satanic panic really spread throughout the truther community. And everything that you might have associated with friars, you instead now associate it with Satan. And of course, you know, he's an FBI chief, so he has the credentials. So I'm supposed to believe that the FBI, with all of their penchant for killing, allowed this guy to go out and tell secrets he wasn't supposed to? Shut the fuck up. You know, you have to understand that they have understood the absolute necessity for controlled opposition for longer than you figured things out. I always consider it like the truth is reigning, right? And so the major umbrellas are religion, Christianity, Islam, you know, whatever. And so those two umbrellas are there, but not everybody fits under those umbrellas. And so now you have to have umbrellas at the edge of those umbrellas to keep the truth from reigning. So now you have smaller religions, you have Hindu, you have all these other ones that people can now squeeze into. And then you have your you know, your people who aren't going to fall for any of it. So now you have your conspiracy stuff. And the conspiracy stuff has all of these different umbrellas for you to feel like you're actually getting truth rained on you, but it's just another umbrella protecting you, keeping you in that circle, just like Dan Bilzerian. At the end of the day, he is still vehemently, violently, adamantly pushing for the idea of a you know, that Jesus is the way, Christianity is the way, you know, the Bible, yada yada yada. That is entire fucking propaganda. That is some absolute horse shit. It's fucking horse shit. It's stupid. It's nightmarishly stupid. It's embarrassingly stupid. And because Dan says the right things when it comes to, you know, some things, we're going to accept him and call him our leader and our representative, and he's a piece of shit bigot. I would be so embarrassed if one of my gay friends knew I was a Dan Bilzerian supporter and was like, yeah, you know, this guy hates gay people though, right? Gay and trans, he hates them. He hates me, right? Like, that would be my friend saying that. Like, I'm supposed to be like, yeah, but he says the right thing about the friars. And, well, he's better than Randy Fine, so he's the lesser of two evils. So he has my vote. That's literally how this system has been running the whole fucking time. That's what they rely on. You voting for the lesser of two evils. You know it's all bullshit, but hey, you like some of the things this guy says over some of the things that guy says. He brought the minds to see any workings. If you notice, back then videos were not great quality. Who? I can't stand that piece of shit. Who, Dan? Yeah, Dan Bilzerian's a dick. The way he thinks about women, like, why would any woman support that guy? Because he says the right things about, like, he's the type of guy that they push in front of us to be like, this is what a guy who doesn't believe in Israel is. Look at his mullet. Look at his compensation muscles. You know? He's an asshole to women. He's Nick Fuentes. He's an asshole about women. He's an asshole about gays. But hey, he says the right things about this, right, guys? And he still doesn't. He still hides from the anti-Semitism narrative. He still claims, like, he doesn't call it the cult that it is. He definitely doesn't bring up the pedophilia aspect enough. Right? He's just a part of the play. He's a piece. This is what they do now. They give us popular people. Hegseth, Cash. Those guys were popular guys. Instead of it being nerds, now it's the popular guy. It's all fucking terrible, man. It's all terrible. The fact that Dan Bilzerian is just running and suddenly he's getting picked up by all the news outlets. His candidacy is taken seriously. When have you ever seen that happen for somebody else? How did that just happen for Dan? Where did he get all the signatures necessary to be able to don't you have to have a bunch of signatures and shit? Where did he go door to door? Was there a door-to-door Dan Bilzerian campaign that nobody reported on? I'm sorry, but I just don't have the the glasses on. No. I know how the system operates. I know that when we get close, they give us a little bit. You know, when people are ready to revolt, they're going to give us Trump. When people are ready to revolt, they're going to give us Obama. When people are ready to revolt, they're going to give us Bill Clinton playing saxophone on the Arsenio Hall show. He's cool. Look how cool he is. Oh, he's an obvious womanizer. He's fucking interns and shit. Oh, that's cool. He's cool. Monica Lewinsky was a fucking Israeli spy. You guys never heard that angle before, did you? Yeah, look it up. She's a friar. You thought she was Polish with that Lewinsky. Nope. Friar. Coincidentally, of course. I always wondered how they had the phone calls taped. You know how hard it was to tape phone calls back in the day like that? Such high quality phone call tapes? Where'd she get that shit? Wasn't that just some regular lady? Was she had FBI level fucking phone tapping abilities back then? Isn't there an umbrella for every degree in Mason? I don't know. I don't waste my time with shit like that. I'm working from the top down. Masons are absolutely a part of things, but they're not the part of things. And until we work from the top down, we're being distracted. We are never going to cut off enough tentacles to kill the monster. They grow back too quick. They double up. We have to cut the head off the monster if we want the tentacles to die. Don't get stuck focused on something that doesn't matter. Or that does matter, but like, ask yourself, if the thing you're focusing on, when you reach the top of it, does it end all of it? Does it connect all of it? Or does it just mean you have to start over again? And now there's this thing. Like, if I can convince you that they're spraying shit in the skies, the first thing you're going to ask, once you finally start to go, yeah, you know what, that does seem kind of weird. You're going to go, I wonder who is doing it. And as soon as we go to the who, now I got to start back over again. Well, it's actually the friars. Oh, no, you can't say that. Oh, no, blah, blah, blah. And then it's a whole new fight again. So why wouldn't I just start with that and then work my way down? You know, it's the friars doing everything. Like what? Well, chemtrails, pokes, government, Hollywood, you name it. And I can show you how each thing is connected and how it's being used openly by one of the things they do is have everybody convinced that the conspiracy is some really super complicated, supernatural, you probably can't understand it in your, feeble human brain. When the reality is it's super easy. You have an inferior group of people who, through years of inbreeding and supremacy, have gotten, significantly weaker, dumber, inferior. Like they're at the bottom of every chart. The only thing that they top the charts on are things where they control the ladder on the way up. That's why they have so many doctors and lawyers. Not because they're the best at it, because they control the ladder. I think people should vote for Dan just to stir the shit. Yeah, but then what are you getting? You're getting something just as dangerous in a different disguise. He's just as dangerous. He's one of them. He wouldn't be where he is if he wasn't a part of the plan. They're really, really starting to push the religious division aspect of things. Christianity is getting pushed everywhere, like that number 47 is getting pushed everywhere. But Christianity is getting pushed everywhere. Don't you think it's strange that they're talking about 47? The 47-year reign of Iran, and yada, 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 47. And Charlie got shot handing out the 47 hats? Bullshit. So what do you suggest? I'm truly interested. Unification. At the end of the day, I'm some dude on YouTube. I don't know all of the best things. I do know that there's a lot of hidden technology. I know that the best people for the positions are not in those positions. I know that like I could create, when I win the presidency in 2028, I'm going to create so many jobs simply by saying we're going to institute the solar road technology. Where, if you look into it, they're like Lego blocks and giant. And the roads are turned into these easily replaced, much more durable, heat conducting, or sunlight solar powered roadways that can divert power into it's free power for everyone. In the meantime, you have to have the factories to create the pieces. So that's a whole bunch of jobs building the factories. Then the factory workers. Then you have the people that are going to have to go through and tear up the old roads and dispose of all of it properly. And, that's a whole bunch of jobs. Then we have the people that are going to lay the roads down. That's a whole bunch of jobs. Who's going to pay for it? That's what we need to do. The $3.8 billion a year that we pay to Israel in a lump sum cash every year. We could start with that. I'm sure it's going to cost more money, but we'll start with that. We'll start with every dollar that goes to Israel gets put into the solar road technology. And you know what? We start collecting from the people. Hey, people, this is transparency. We're going to need as many people to donate to this as possible because this is going to pay your light bill forever. You're not going to have a light bill anymore. Wouldn't you rather pay a couple $100 now, $1,000 over the next couple months to buy a system that you'll never have to pay electric bills again? Break lack of employment or give people the gems to break the food chain. I mean, there's so many things. Water-powered cars. Let's pull all the cars off the roadway that aren't water-powered. Let's get rid of this fucking fuel dependency and use this technology that's been in existence for a long time. That Mayer guy, I forget his first name, but Mayer built the water-powered car, went to have a meeting with people, a final meeting, let's get this going. And as he took a drink from his water, he stood up real quick and said, they poisoned me. Ran out into the street and died. Heart attack, of course. You know, there's a lot more to this. Geothermic power. That should exist, right? Why aren't we harnessing that? Like, there's a lot of ways that people can get shit for free. We should be making life as free as possible for people. The least amount of people working, the better. The more machines doing the jobs, the better. The more people are free to be the best things they can be, to live life. Life is not meant to be fucking sitting behind a desk all day for 40 years and you hate it. You know, forced to do. That's not what life is. Look at all the old paintings. All the old paintings depict what life used to be like. You just did. You just went around. You shopped. You dressed up. You had a nice time. No depictions of people working their shits off. I tried uninstalling and now it won't install and keeps having errors. Literally took many screenshots. I'm scared. I can't install Messenger. There's just something going on. That's all. There's just something weird going on. Things like that happen. It's all just fucking weird, man. And really, like, at the end of the day, what do you expect? Like, it's coming. It's coming. They haven't been building up the FEMA camps. They haven't been putting in their surveillance. They haven't been running the operations and all these different things that they do so that it can not happen. It's going to happen. Turmoil is going to happen. Either we're leading it or we're suffering from it. One of the main keys to the revolution are women. Why do you think women are downplayed so much in our society? Why do you think women are so, like, they're so revered in so many ways and then discriminated against and held back and all that in so many others? Why do you think that is? And it's because they know women are the key. At the end of the day, we don't need it's not like we're against the police and the military. We need our boys. We need the police and the military. We don't need them to do a put their guns down. We need them to do a 180. Aren't they there to protect us? Didn't they sign up to protect us from enemies, both foreign and domestic? Women are unifying, some I should say. Yeah, but in the wrong kind of way. The notion that women shouldn't be like stay-at-home moms because that makes them less than. The only thing that makes them less than is the lack of the paycheck and then the security when the husband... You know why you see so many old women at Walmart and whatever? Working, and you're like, why the hell is that woman working? Because her husband died. And when her husband died, the pensions all stopped. And the woman that had been taking care of her house, her family, her husband for all those years, working extremely hard to maintain that life, suddenly she's got to go out there and get a job because there's no more money coming in. That shouldn't exist. But it's the mothers, the daughters, it's the mothers, the daughters, the sisters, the grandmothers, the aunts, the whatever, to a lesser extent. But it's the females in the males' lives that need to be like, hey, stop what you're doing. While you go off to the other side of the country to round up a family just like ours, somebody just like you from that side of the country is going to be over here rounding us up. And before you know it, it'll be too late. They've made women into these caricatures of women. You know, I remember, like, think about the 80s. Think about when women first started sort of stepping out. My mom was a quintessential example. My mom used to have so much fucking makeup on. And she was beautiful. She didn't need makeup. But she used to do the white, what was that video called? The Robert Palmer video. You know, She's Got the Look. Is that the one? No. Whatever, where the women all look the same and they have like the hair pulled back and the blue eyeshadow and the white face and the pink rouge or whatever.
They were the Robert Palmer girls, is what they were called.
Right. Like that was a big look. But that's a lesser extreme of it too. Like, but still, like, I mean, she's striking, but you wonder what the hell she looks like. My mom used to have it even worse. Sorry, I didn't mean to throw that down like that. And my mom would have the huge hair. Like, I can remember my mom.
To love.
Yeah. She would, that song's about heroin. She would, might as well face it, you're addicted to drugs. I guarantee that's how that song started. And it was like a moodier song. And they were like, what if we change this and we make it to love? And I guarantee it. But I can remember my mom like bending over with the hairspray with a cigarette in her mouth, and she would be like, and she would spray out her hair, and it would be huge. And she would wear these huge ass shoulder pads. Like the big shoulder pads were such a thing. I always thought that was the silliest look. Looking like a football player and shit. Simply Irresistible, that's the song. No, Addicted to Love is the one that I'm thinking of. She's right, where they would be they're all walking all slow and whatever, it doesn't matter. You know, they've been like, it's so crazy too, because at the same time we revere women. They're like the ultimate prize, and you feel incomplete and all this shit without them, but you don't think of them as equal. And it's because of the confusion.
I mean,
the confusion's been created. This notion that you are as good as I am physically is insulting to both of us.
You have to understand that you come at this from your perspective.
I do.
You are a wonderful moral man. The majority are not. They just... Have you been watching this rape university bullshit?
They
where
are...
millions of men are going to learn how to drug and rape their fucking wives.
Yeah, just like Pete Hegseth did the Pulp Fiction thing. That's not true.
This is all over the news. No, this is true.
The Pete Hegseth thing was too. But it turns out Pete Hegseth was joking and people just didn't catch the joke.
Well, Denver Police Department are posting about it. This happened. They found this website.
They found a website.
It was over like 30 million or 60 million. It was ridiculous number of people in the month of February.
Okay.
Men that visited this.
Okay.
To learn how to drug and rape their fucking wives. Okay?
Yeah,
you have to understand. You're looking at it from your perspective.
30 million
men are not like you.
Those men, though, a lot of those numbers are inflated. And there is definitely something wrong with it, but we have to address the situation all the way around. And one of the biggest issues, especially with men like that, is the devaluation of masculinity, the devaluation of men in general, this confusing atmosphere, along with, look at what they provided us as entertainment for decades. Well, Hollywood was not sexist. They are very sexist. And all of those narratives that we were shown time and time again were the way they wanted it to be. They created the narrative, the America they wanted to live in. So we have to start addressing the roots of these issues. And we have to start addressing these problems as they are. And women are not just, the victims of this. I mean, they are, but in different ways than they realize. Again, the idea of, I remember the commercial very well. Anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you. Mia Hamm and Michael Jordan. Are you fucking kidding me? Outside of playing soccer, Mia Hamm is not beating Michael Jordan in very many things. And give Michael Jordan a summer where he's only playing soccer every day, and I betcha he can give Mia Hamm a pretty good game. We can't keep pretending like that's somehow different. You have the WNBA that's being forced on us left and right. Have any of you ever sat down and watched the WNBA game? My wife hates it when I watch it. Not because I'm some asshole for laughing at it. Because they're that bad. You can't watch it and not laugh at it. They fall down all the fucking time. They throw passes out in the middle of nowhere. They miss and airball shots more than anything. But you know why you watch basketball? You know that basketball almost died in the 70s and shit? And one of the things was the slam dunk rule was very stringent. And like you could do it, but it was real. There was no phi slamma jamma kind of shit. It wasn't until they started to really open up to the idea that basketball is an exhibition of what these monsters can do that the rest of us can't do but wish we could. So watching a bunch of girls run around and miss layups and shit, that's not, we can all do that. Why would I want to watch that shit? When I watch my wife watches that cheerleading competition on TV. That shit's cool. They're doing shit that I couldn't do, but at the same time, there'll be events where, like, it'll be a tumbling event, and you'll have the girl do it and the guy do it. The guys do it better. Are you going to say they don't? The tumbling part?
They can do more flips and jump higher. They're stronger.
They're just stronger, bigger, strong. It's just what it is. It's not a knock against women.
I mean, form is one thing that varies from human to human.
Right.
But strength.
Strength, you mean?
They're okay. So they're not
Strength.
as flexible because their hips are built different.
Right.
But they have more strength.
But from a I'm gonna watch you to be entertained perspective, have you watched the WNHL yet? They tried to make it seem like it was this big thing with the female Olympics and shit. Have you ever watched female hockey? Hold this.
Yeah. Oh, the hockey was brutal. The hockey was brutal, which, when I was a kid, I loved playing floor hockey. I never could ice skate. I never learned to ice skate. So I couldn't play ice hockey, but I loved floor hockey, and I was good, in gym when they had to choose teams. I was definitely the first girl that was chosen, a lot of times chosen over some of the crappier men. But either way, I was never chosen above the really good boys. Because no matter how good I wasn't going to be better than the boys. Not at something like that. And, it bugged me, but not, it wasn't, I didn't look at it like a sexist thing back then. I looked at it like, fucking boys, of course they're bigger and stronger. I wish I was a boy and I was big and strong, It was, more of a hating the universe for making me a girl in that moment rather than, oh, well, why did they get it? You know, it's like, well, they get it because they're a boy. So, and I agree with you, Jane. Why do we have to be compared to each other? We're obviously so different. We carry children. That's our purpose here, and that is hard enough. And it's harder than the shit that they have to do, no doubt about it. But it's definitely strengths in different departments meant to complement each other, you know. But yeah, crazy, crazy shit.
What?
Uh, hold on. Hello?
Yeah. I have to be compared to each other. Exactly. We are obviously so different. We can carry children. That's our purpose here. And that's hard enough. I totally agree. I'm jealous of it. I wish I could do that. I wish I could feel that life inside me and grow that bond that mothers have. That's beautiful. Why do we take away from that? Like, because you can't do sports as well as we can, that somehow that makes that less than. There's not a guy on earth that could have something come out of them that big, so big it tears their fucking taint from their asshole to their balls. Or even the doctor has to do it, the episiotomy. It appeases things. And we're just like, oh, okay, do that shit. Go right ahead. Like, that's to downplay what women... And at the same time, this is now, you're not going to like me, but I don't think women should be allowed to be cops. I don't think women should be allowed to be judges. I don't think women should be allowed to have positions of power over people when for a month or a week out of every month, they're compromised. Now, if you want to say that, you know, that week you get to take off, maybe, I don't really know how that would work out, but personally, I've had it happen where I've had a female judge seemingly be completely unreasonable, be ornery, be, you know, like mean, and you're going like, what's wrong with you? What are you, on the rag? Like, you're thinking that in your head. But because we live in a society where we're not allowed to question that. Like, I would love to get a judge's record and go back case by case and look and see, is there a week every month that she's actually harder on people? Or is she the same? If you can show a track record of never being compromised, that's one thing. But then again, nobody knows how you're going to handle menopause. Menopause is a scary, terrible thing in some cases. And the thing is, the reason why I'm comfortable saying this is because I absolutely 100% sympathize with what you go through. I cannot imagine having my hormones get all fucking out of whack. I get all crampy. I get all swollen. I start bleeding for 5 fucking days out of my crotch. And every time I sit down, it's like, oh shit. It's all wet and cold. All that shit. I just can't do my fucking pants. I gotta sit there with a stick shoved up my shit. Or a big nasty pad. Right? Like, that shit sounds awful. It's so bad that I don't think any woman should be out there trying to tough their way through. You happen to have a really heavy bad period month. And you're going to sit there and tell me that getting in and out of a car and you know, being in a situation where, like, I personally, again,
food for his pregnant woman.
the vast majority of female cops that I see are like short, fat women. And the truth is, 99% of the people that they go to arrest, especially the men, if the man didn't allow them to arrest her to arrest him, she wouldn't be able to. If the man decided to physically fight back, she would not be able to stop it. And at that point, they put everybody else's lives in danger. If somebody is willing to fight back against the cops and, you know, do whatever to get away, at that point, taking a hostage, driving 85 miles an hour down a 20, whatever. That's how you see so many of those crash videos. And that happens with men. Imagine, like, if I'm a criminal, I got 2 strikes, and I'm doing a third thing, and I'm looking at life, and it's some little tiny female, and she's like, all right, let me search your car or whatever. I am so much more likely to attack her than I am some jacked up dude that looks like he could hurt me. Not even huge, just young, in shape, on the ready. I know for a fact that if I hit just about any female as hard as I can, she's done with. And that shouldn't exist. Not in a position where protection is in place. Like if I'm in some sort of building fight or whatever, and my legs are compromised, and a female firefighter shows up, I'm going to be pretty upset. Because I don't think her ass can carry me. That's why people are losing it, because we have lost our natural purpose in the world with each other. Well, no, women aren't, their purpose isn't to have kids. There's lots of women who aren't going to have kids, and that doesn't make them any less of a woman just because they don't want to deal with children. I personally, if I knew how much I would love them, and I knew how much worry and just innate fear comes with it, I would never do it. Because it's so... You love them too much. You want to protect them too much, and you can't. You can't. And that part is just that's something you're not prepared for.
His woman, he was probably close by. Yeah.
But I don't, seriously. You're already a female. You're already going to be compromised in a situation. Inked up Jesus is there. And he doesn't want to let you arrest him. Do you really think you're going to? Do you think about that shit? And then to think you're already, so you're already in that situation, but now you're full of cramps. You're already short-tempered and unreasonable. Every single fucking woman, I don't care who you are, if you say that you haven't excused behavior in your past by blaming it on your period, you're a fucking liar. You're a liar. There's been times in your past where you've been completely unreasonable. You knew you were unreasonable, but you were on your period and you couldn't stop it or whatever, and then you had to apologize afterward, and you're like, sorry, I was just kind of, it was that time, and I was just a little off, and yeah, I'm sorry. And you've gotten forgiven for it because that person wants to sleep with you again or whatever. If that's the case, and that's the case because that's the case, you can't say my argument is invalid. If I found out that some female, drew her gun on me or did something crazy on me, and it happened to be she was on her period, I would be so furious. But we never get to find that shit out. We don't even get to ask that question. That's why I didn't have any children, because I know how evil this world is. You were smart. You were smart. I encourage my kids not to have children, because I want them to just live life, have fun, do what you have to do. I think about like how different my life would be if I didn't have to. I got a neighbor next door. Doesn't have kids, doesn't have a woman, none of that shit. He has women when he wants to. But I just think, man, that carefree existence has to be nice. If he dies, he doesn't break anyone's heart. But that's just stuff that nobody tells you. But as far as our everyday lives, something that we're all affected by, like, think about judges, how crazy that is. Some judge, how many times have you seen it where it's some sort of like domestic abuse situation, and the judge is like, oh, she never like says to the woman, like, how many times do you get in his face and be like, fuck you, you ain't shit, motherfucker, blah, 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 blah. Has that ever happened? Yeah. And he's done this before, and yet you still came back? Well, what you doing? Why are you coming back?
You can't.
Like, it's interesting how this whole thing works.
Shit, this is my dad calling.
Very lonely, though, I must admit. It doesn't have to be, though. You can be as lonely as you want to be. If you know, whatever's going on. Now, see, I think the hardest part nowadays with being lonely, especially for me, is that everybody still believes in something stupid. And for some reason, they always want to sort of bring that up around me. And then I get blamed for not, why do you always bring that shit up around people? But I don't. Most of the time, other people bring the shit up. And it's really hard to be in a situation like I don't want to be friends with people that I have to be like, okay, well, let's pretend like you're not a fucking weirdo so I can have friends with you. Like, I just not interested in that. That's the hardest part. Especially because everybody else is so discriminatory. You find out, like, your friends find out you don't believe in God, they treat you differently. You're the one that believes in the fairy tale craziness. I'm the one that believes we should all be taking responsibility and accountability for our lives. And yet somehow I'm the bad guy in the situation. I'm the weirdo. I'm going to read this conversation to you guys that I had. Weeks ago with a friend. So, him and I always had this volatile relationship. He's the firstborn Arabic son of a family straight out of Palestine that has money, and like he's very arrogant and very sort of delusional in certain ways, and he's in a lot of competition with me. It's really strange because he's the one that has everything, but he's always on the muscle. He's always on edge no matter what I say, and you'll see here. So I said to him, oh no, that wasn't it. He sends out of the blue one day, he sends this picture of Puka Nakua biting some fucking meme picture, I don't know. And I'm like, what the fuck? And he says, LOL, they're trying to burn him with anti-Semitism shit, LOL. I said, good. And then I posted this thing that I always post. It says, Semitism, according to Webster's and all other dictionaries, means you, quote, a policy or predisposition favorable to friars. Semitic refers to all the people of the area, Palestinians, Syrians, and yes, Israelis too. Therefore, anti-Semitism and anti-Semitic mean two completely different things. I love Palestinian people. I do not believe in showing anyone favor, especially anyone that believes they were born superior to me. That and the belief that everyone else is just Goyim. That is the most supremacist set of beliefs in the world, and I'm allowed to think that way about those beliefs and choose not to support it. The one thing I do know is I've been begging for someone of that faith/national identity to come talk to me and explain to me what I'm wrong about. Explain to me why we give Israel, a first world country, $3.8 billion, which turns into about 15 billion shekels a year, instead of using it to fund anti-pedophile groups or veterans groups or women's rights groups or a plethora of other better causes. Explain to me any of the stuff that is supposedly non-existent, and explain what other reasons people feel the way they do about Israel. I am a person of color. My grandfather was a concentration camp survivor, so you can't just write me off as some dumb skinhead. Yet, I never have anybody that believes my opinion worthy enough to just come try to adjust it. I'm just supposed to believe a bunch of stuff that doesn't make sense. Well, other than conspiracy and supremacy, but it makes people / cowards uncomfortable talking about it. And or they hate that I'm right and people don't like that. I'm open to being wrong, but again, I'm just not worthy enough, apparently. Just look at all the responses I'll get on this comment. Anybody who asks questions or points out the incredible hypocrisy on obvious apartheid going on, like when Ben and Jerry said they no longer want to sell in illegally occupied territories, still selling in Israel though, and how instantly get labeled as someone who hates Jews when Ben and Jerry's is a Jewish company. How does that work? How does it that retirement funds for average people, Goyim, in the United States are being threatened over this? How come nobody is really talking about it? And again, I'd love to be wrong. I'd love for somebody to just come explain it to me, but nobody ever seems willing because apparently I'm just beneath you. Am I wrong? That's just a thing that I always send to people. Like I always post that comment on places and whatnot. And he said, no clue what actually happened. He probably just said something logical against the Jays. And this is all like we're typing sort of at the same time. And what I said was just read the first part. Anti-Semitism is anti-supremacy. It's a good thing. People just don't know what the word means. He said, did you really just write all of that? And then he said, yeah, the friars are really good at changing words. So then I sent a screenshot of the Webster's dictionary page for the word Semitism. And he said, and they are very smart and words labels they use. He said, I know the definition. I'm a Semite. He doesn't, like, instead of just saying, like he's, like, insulted that I'm pointing it out, because he doesn't know that. Nobody knows the definition of Semitism. That's why he said, I'm a Semite. They're different things. Semite and Semitism are different things. I said they changed the spelling in 2020 from ANTI capital SEMITISM to ANTISEMITISM. I said, you are Semitic. He said, I know. The definition is wrong, LOL. I said, the policy and predisposition favorable part says everything. He said, oh, wait, it's fine. Puka is being sued for biting a girl in the shoulder and someone saying some shit against friars. I said, I wish they would sue me. He said, I love the world we live in. I said, I want the ADL so badly. Then I shared this article that I was showing you guys the other day about the Naomi Elkins, the other Naomi Elkins, buying a piece of property that for the last 100 years has been zoned as a open piece of property in a neighborhood adjacent to another lot, part of the aesthetics of the neighborhood. It's been this way since 1925. Like, nobody was ever allowed to build a house there. But when these friars bought the land and said they wanted to put a house up, and the community said no, they were like, oh, that's anti-Semitism. You're not letting us put the property up because it's anti-Semitism. It's a really crazy, interesting article. I said, check that shit out. You have to read, though. It is as Semitism as it gets. And it's not even the right Naomi Elkins story. He said, I stay away from this stuff. It fucks my head up. I had a fucking panic attack the other day over it. I said, that bitch is crazy and literally got away with murdering her kids for religious reasons because after 11 hours of interview and 90-minute trial, she was deemed not guilty by insanity, something that 0.25% of criminals get. That story is insane. I said, that's why it helps talking it out. And I was on punishment from at YouTube for a week. He said, oh, take a break from social media. A war is coming. I'm getting in shape. I said, LOL. He said, I'm also loading up on guns, LOL. I said, have fun. He said, we will have a civil war in the next 5 years. I said, LOL. He said, I hope I'm wrong and crazy. I said, way to stay away from this stuff, LOL. He said, I can't read the articles and watch the videos. They fuck with my head. I know the world is fucked and I'm getting ready to something. I said, low-level selfishness isn't the answer. He said, literally he said, I'm getting ready to literally get anxiety attacks. I said, low-level selfishness isn't the answer. You would think I called him a fucking, some dumb Arab piece of shit, blah, blah, something like that. He got so upset. He put up a bunch of question marks. I said, It's what they want. He said, fuck yourself. I said, if you say so, LOL. He said, bro, you are the arrogant one. Do your thing. I said, LOL, if you say so. He said, you can sit and judge while the rest of the world actually does. I said, you only care about you. How am I selfish? He said, I'll take low-level selfishness instead of high-level laziness. I said, you're mad because I don't agree with you. If I'm wrong, it wouldn't upset you so much. He says, I'm not mad. I just realized why I shouldn't talk to you. You are nothing but bad energy. Always have, always will be. Keep living in your glass house where you do zero. This guy just got done telling me that there is a civil war coming. He's stocking up on guns. He's getting ready because everything makes anxiety attacks. And I'm the one that's bad energy. Because I didn't say, you're right, fatty. You're right. The world is coming to an end. We should all be getting ready to shoot each other.
You said that as I'm reading 3 people are dead after a shooting stemming from an altercation following a crash outside a Detroit gas station early this morning. Shooting.
Let's see. What the fuck are you talking about here? Jesus Christ. Let's see. Right. I feel like I have to fake every relationship I have just to fit in and seemingly have to ignore their arrogance, and they have the audacity to scream at me like, right. I mean, it's really weird. My wife always used to say this to me. So our neighbor next door was this old Baptist lady, and she would judge us. She would always tell my wife, like, she would get her outside, they'd be sitting out front, and she'd be talking about how she is just praying for us because, you know, she's basically like, your lives are so terrible. You need Jesus. This crazy bitch who, like, she's got like 5 dogs. Her house is stinky. She's just awful. Like, I mean, she has good intentions and all, but she's way fucked up. She is in no position to be judging anyone. But she's this old Baptist lady who was assaulted as a child. I think by a church member, wasn't it? Was it by a church member? I think it was. I think it was a church member that assaulted her. That or a family member, one of the two. And it was a long-term assault. And again, she would always be in this position of judgment, like something we're doing is wrong. And, you know, she would always tell Angela how much she prays for her and I'm so mean and all these things, right? And we'd be sitting out there and she would come up and she'd be like, okay, how about this? And she would go into some sort of religious thing. She knew who she was talking to. She was saying it to me.
She tried so many different angles to save you.
Right, to save me. And then I would talk to her like a reasonable human being. I didn't curb my shit because you're too stupid to understand. I would talk to her. And I would answer for what she had to say. And I would ask her questions and all that kind of shit. And afterward, Angela would be like, why are you so mean? Why don't you just let her do her thing? Why don't you just let her be her own self? And it's like, I'm supposed to let her come be in judgment of us and say all kinds of crazy shit to us and all that shit. I'm supposed to live like that because she's insecure? She's the one that brought it up. How do you know she doesn't need to hear it? That's why she's bringing it up. But it's like, I'm always the one that's supposed to be compromised. Everybody else has a right to their religious beliefs, but because I don't have religious beliefs, I'm not allowed to have religious beliefs, right? A lack of religious beliefs isn't religious beliefs. That's not valid. And I'm supposed to placate your fucking insanity. You know, I'm not supposed to ask questions that you don't have answers to. I'm supposed to bow my head for your goofy ass prayers. You're fucking crazy. That's never gonna happen. I sit there with my head up looking at everybody, just kind of laughing every time. It's not out of respect. How am I being respectful to you by compromising myself? Why is your self-delusion, so fucking insecure that you need me to pretend like I'm a part of your thing to feel complete. If your thing is true, you don't need me to be there. You'll be fine even if I disagree, because it's like vaccines, right? If you're getting vaccinated, why are you concerned with those who are unvaccinated? Didn't you get a vaccine to protect you? If the vaccine doesn't protect you from the unvaccinated, why did you take the vaccine? Especially considering the risks that are associated with them. It's not like it's some little nothing risk. GBS is just the modern day version of polio. If they told you that you had a risk of getting polio every time you took one of those, nobody would take it. So they now call it Guillain-Barré syndrome, something that you can't even pronounce. So you're definitely not going to bring it up at the doctor's office. Hey doc, what's that Guillain-Barré? How do you say that? I'm going to sound real stupid real quick. If you're some, typical arrogant Christian or whatever, you're never gonna bring it up because you don't want to look stupid. And so you'll never actually ask. But it's basically polio. I mean, I don't even know what the difference between the two is, to tell you the truth. And just like polio, I think, GBS only comes from shots. That's why it stopped. Because they stopped putting it in whatever shots they were giving people. It doesn't just stop. The polio thing, the virus doesn't just stop. But again, if you have the protection, what good is the protection if you're going to be worried about it? Like, would you buy, say you wanted salmon for dinner. Would you buy like a tiny little bit and be like, man, I hope this fills up the whole family? No. If you bought a big piece and you didn't fill the family, you'd be shocked. You don't buy things, you don't do things because you think it might not work. The last sermon of Prophet Muhammad, oh geez, I don't care. They're practically identical. Who and where was this? What do you reckon was in those vaccines? I know that in 1915, three of the biggies, pertussin or pertussis, whatever it is, rabies and tuberculosis. I don't remember what the third one was. Typhoid? You sure? Those three were introduced in 1915. A year later, sleep sickness started hitting the world, basically. The movie Awakenings is about that shit. It's really hard to accurately state how horrible this thing was. Right? To put into perspective how insane this shit was. Right? And it affected millions and millions of people. And it lasted until 1929. Just when the Depression kicked in, suddenly sleep sickness stopped happening. And it's a neurological thing. And they found later that if they used, what was it? Some sort of beta blockers on those people, they came out of it for a short period of time. Once whatever it was overtook it, they went back to being these statues. But like the movie will show you, when the people came out of it, they thought it was like the day after they fell asleep. And they weren't asleep, they just get frozen. And if you remember in the movie, if you threw a ball at them, they'd still catch it. Their reflexes and shit were still there. But I don't know. Fuck if I know. I know that they something. It's something. It's something. There's some sort of connection.
Awesome.
Huh?
The movie was awesome.
Movie's great, but the more that her and I have looked into it, we're looking up amnesia. And you would think amnesia, if you look at 80s television, 70s, 80s television, even 60s, but there was an amnesia episode in most cheesy TV shows. Even Mama's Family had an amnesia episode. Naomi gets bonked by the door, and suddenly she doesn't remember who she is. She's not interested in Vinton. She becomes the perfect sort of cleaning, cooking, housewife character because Mama sort of tricks her into being that way. And then she bunks her head again, and now she's back to being Naomi. But you would see those episodes in so many different shows. You would think amnesia, somebody getting bonked on the head and then forgetting who they are, you would think that would be something, especially back in the day when safety regulations weren't a thing and people would get in, sword fights and shit like that. Like there was all kinds of roughhousing going on. You would think amnesia would be a really well documented thing. Nope. 1800s. Happens to be the same doctor who discovered Tourette syndrome. You would think Tourette syndrome would be something that you would definitely hear about in the historical record. The random royalty, the random anybody who fuck, shit, fuck. You would think that would be something that people would have written down. Something that somebody would have talked about. Nope, doesn't exist until slightly after they start poking people. It's all connected. The 1880s, the 1890s, these things, like they get mentioned. You might have some sort of mention in the 1700s, but it's extremely brief. And then you'll get like the 1850s or 60s mention again, but there's really nothing there. And it's not until the 1880s when they first start diagnosing the thing. Where the fuck is all the I mean... To me, the greatest mind to ever exist had to be Cornelius Drebbel. And of course, none of you know who Cornelius Drebbel is unless you've been on my feed. I didn't know who Cornelius Drebbel was until I started questioning the legitimacy of submarines. And it turns out that the very first submarine was made in 1620. By Cornelius Drebbel. It was a large vessel that could hold as many as 15 people. King Edward I is the first monarch to ever have traveled underwater. Could go as deep as 30, 40 feet. Could travel underwater for 3 hours at a time. Many miles distances. 16 right? Cornelius Drebbel is the guy who they said could make it thunder and lightning on contact or on command. Have you ever heard of somebody who historically, like a real person, was said to be able to make it thunder and lightning on command? No. He invented the submarine. He invented air conditioning. He invented the microscope. He invented the telescope for the most part. He invented a thermostat. He invented an incubator. He invented, like, the list goes on and on. This guy is the most insane, like, it's just so crazy to hear this dude's life. And of course, he was rich and then he was broke. And then he was rich and then he was, like, the whole narrative is just bullshit. It's Chat GPT bullshit. It's them just stuffing stories into... Nowadays, somebody's lucky if they invent one thing. This guy was making statues. He was part of the the play scene at the time. He was making moving statues and like this guy was inventing all sorts of shit. And you've never heard of him. Cornelius Drebbel. Greatest mind ever. And you're stuck hearing about Charles Manson and shit. You're stuck hearing about, just dumb shit. Why haven't you ever heard of Cornelius Drebbel? The thing is, the royalty at the time, the military at the time, didn't see any use in a vessel that could travel underwater undetected. So there was no interest in it from a military perspective. So nobody ever tried to build a submarine again for another 100+ years. And they couldn't. They couldn't. Nobody was ever successful building submarines. If you look at the history of submarines, there was no success. They were supposedly built, but they failed every time. In 1850, there was supposedly a submarine that was built, and it was in the Bahama region. It could go as deep as 150 meters. Could stay underwater for 3 hours. It had a hatch on the bottom that you could open up so you could harvest oysters from the bottom of the water. and they could build this thing. I don't know how they could see 150 meters down, but apparently, they couldn't have flame because if the oxygen being pumped down, that would start a fire. That would explode. Imagine being the first guy that's down there and they're like, all right, open the hatch. It will be safe. But the reason, the only thing they didn't understand was that you couldn't ascend rapidly. And so they would just pop it up. And because the guys inside got so tremendously ill, the bends really bad and even died, I think, from it, they just abandoned the sub off on the shore. And it sat there for the longest time. Like, this sub was supposedly built in 1850. This is the one supposed success story because every other sub story from around that time is a failure. And then they would somehow harvest the vessel from the bottom of the sea and shit. Like, you're talking, these stories that you hear are just laughably stupid. Laughably. A submarine sank. It's at the bottom of the fucking water. Big, deep fucking river, whatever. And they're salvaging that shit? How? Come on. It's like the transatlantic cable. That shit makes no sense. If you buy that shit, you're on the wrong page. But you haven't looked into it either, so you don't know. But apparently it wasn't until the Germans somehow figured it out with the U-boats. But the U-boats are just underwater boats. Boats that go just under the surface of the water. They still have shit sticking out of the top, supposedly. Again, all of these are just stories that you hear. You don't actually know any of that legitimacy or not. You just buy the story. And then in 1952... 52? They just decided that they were going to have a nuclear submarine. And by 55 or 56, they had figured out how to condense a nuclear power plant down to the size that it could fit into a submarine, along with the desalination plant, because you can't use salt water in a nuclear thing. It fucks shit up, I guess. But in 1950s technology, they were able to reduce a nuclear reactor down to inside a submarine, alongside a desalination plant, along with the machine that can supposedly make air out of water. They run an electrical current through the water, through the desalinated water, which separates the oxygen from the hydrogen, and then they collect all the oxygen molecules to make air, while then they're left with a whole bunch of hydrogen, like twice as much hydrogen. That's the story. That's the narrative. If I gave you a big tub of fucking oxygen, pure oxygen, and a big tub of fucking hydrogen, and said, all right, make some water, you wouldn't be able to do that. You couldn't combine them. But it's all of these things, especially submarines. The Rickover, Hyman Rickover, who was a friar but converted to Protestantism, because that makes sense. You've heard about that a lot, right? Friars converting to Protestant. Totally happens all the time. But this is actually the highest ranking military official ever. And he was only in command of one vessel for like a couple of weeks, but then it was backdated to say he was in command for a couple of months, even though he wasn't. But he was still the high, like, the whole Rickover story is insane. The whole nuclear submarine story is insane, and I challenge anyone to look it up and tell me otherwise. It's all bullshit. 1952? Do you know what cars look like in 1952? Do you know what airplanes look like in 1952? And you're telling me, as difficult as it was to fly in the air, they were able to fly underwater much easier? Doesn't make any sense. None of it makes any sense. I had ChatGPT break it down one day in ways I never even thought about. But that was after sort of breaking, and finally getting her to talk normal. Anyway, I gotta go. You guys have yourselves a wonderful day. Check out all the links in the description. www.the-bilderberg-group.com. It's free. Go check out our new cover of the Ghost song. It's pretty good. But all you got to do is click download. When it asks how much you want to pay, you click 0 and it's free. All we ask is to share it with someone. The second link is going to be the Hollywoodism link, which is the most important film ever made. Go watch it. It tells you why you dumb Goyim believe in submarines, why you believe in George Washington, why you believe in Abraham Lincoln, all that shit. It's all because you were told to. It's all been scripted for you. And Hollywoodism is how they did it. Essentially, you could say the American dream is the Friar dream, said twice in the movie. It explains everything, except for why they are the way they are, which is what the third link, Israel Hayom, Bottom of Darkness, will explain for you. It's really hard to read because it'll keep kicking you off, and it'll keep throwing up these ads and throwing you all over. And it's really difficult, but it's worth the read. There's a reason why they make it so difficult, because it's worth the read. Yeah, hopefully you like, share, and sub. Miss Jane, appreciate you being here. If you don't get the notification that I'm live, 8:30 in the morning on, from around 8:30, and then in the next couple of hours, if I'm not live, or you didn't get that, you come check, because I'll be live. They just don't send the notification even if you tell them to. There's also the face. There's a bunch. So underneath the two links, then there's a bunch of other links to receipts, all sorts of things that you can check out for yourself. Havara Agreement, Act.il, Team Jorge, Auto Emancipation, all of these different pieces of the puzzle that they give. None of this shit's me saying, it's what they want you to know. And then below that are some links to the music videos, the Facebook page. Go like, share, and sub the Facebook page. If I'm not live here, I'm live there. I got in trouble here, so I'm there. They like to do that to me so often. So go check out the Facebook page. You can see all the cool videos that we have, the music videos. Have yourself a wonderful day. And most importantly, you pedophiles, you kill yourself. Wait for it.